Hi, I'm Rayanne. My sister said I wasn't valuable enough to deserve a seat at the gala. But what hurt more wasn't her words. It was how easily the people I trusted turned their backs. They erased my name, whispered lies behind champagne glasses, and watched me stand there alone. I thought I knew betrayal. But what do you do when the ones you call family are the first to cut you down? Stay with me. Because this story isn't just about loss. It's about what happens when you finally choose yourself. The air inside the Fairmont Boston Hotel's ballroom was thick with roses and expensive perfume. Crystal chandeliers threw cold light across the marble floors. I clutched my invitation tighter, steadying my breath. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, a family affair. I had chosen my navy dress carefully, one that said I belonged. I didn't realize how wrong I was. As I stepped inside, the buzz of conversation dipped. Eyes flickered toward me, then away. My heels clicked too loudly against the floor. I scanned the tables, searching for my name among the neat rows of white place cards. None read Rayanne. I approached a server. "Excuse me, could you help me find my table?" He hesitated, glancing toward the head table where Jolene, my sister, sat like royalty. Her champagne glass caught the light as she spotted me. A slow, cutting smile spread across her face. She stood, raising her glass high. "Rayanne, you made it!" she called, her voice clear and sharp. "I wasn't sure you would since, seating's reserved for our contributors tonight." The word hit like a slap. Laughter rippled through the room, polite, poisonous. I forced a tight smile, my fingers digging into my clutch. "Of course, I wouldn't miss it." Jolene tilted her head, her blonde curls gleaming. "I'm sure you understand, sweetie. We have appearances to keep up." The humiliation burned through me. I turned away slowly, keeping my head high, refusing to let her see me falter. Near the bar, whispers floated around me. "Isn't she the one still living off Jolene's family? I heard she hasn't had a real job in years. Total leech." The words stung. These weren't strangers. They were family friends, Jolene's allies. I kept my face blank, my heart hammering. Of course, Jolene had planted the rumors. Excluding me wasn't enough. She had to poison the room against me too. I slipped outside to the balcony. The cold night slapped me awake. Boston sprawled before me, its lights blinking against the dark sky. I leaned on the railing, breathing in the sharp air. I wouldn't cry. Not here. Not tonight. Inside, Jolene's laughter rang out, bright and hollow. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling anger solidify into something harder. I remembered what my grandmother once said, "You don't win by being louder. You win by lasting longer." Under the Boston stars, I made a quiet promise. Jolene would regret underestimating me. Morning slid over Boston like a dull gray sheet. I hadn't slept much. After making that quiet promise under the stars, I spent the night replaying every smirk, every whisper, each memory splintering deeper into my skin. By morning, I was back in the same ballroom for the gala's final rehearsal. Everything looked the same, the gleaming chandeliers, the polished marble, but it all felt colder now. The illusion of family had cracked overnight. I sat near the back, hands folded tight in my lap. Elise, the event coordinator, with her clipboard and easy smile, ran through the schedule. When it came time to review the acknowledgments, my heart punched hard against my ribs, then stalled. She read the names in a smooth, practiced voice. "Special thanks to Jolene Whitmore, Gregory Sands, Elaine Mortimer." A pause. Nothing. No mention of me. I waited, thinking maybe she would circle back. She didn't. She smiled and moved right along, as if my months of work meant nothing. Across the room, Jolene was watching me. She didn't even fake guilt, just smiled, slow and satisfied, like she'd proven a point. "This is my world. You're just visiting." After the rehearsal, while people huddled over lukewarm coffee, Jolene drifted toward me. "Hey, Rayanne," she said, voice dripping fake sweetness. "Don't take it personally. Your role was just too minor to highlight. You get it, right?" Her words landed like punches. Too minor. I wanted to laugh, or scream, but I didn't. I smiled so tightly it hurt. "Of course," I said lightly, "wouldn't want to waste time on someone insignificant." For a moment, Jolene's perfect mask slipped. Just a flicker. I turned and walked away before she could recover. That evening in my tiny apartment, the silence pressed against me. I pulled out an old battered notebook, the one where I wrote dreams I never dared chase. I didn't write about revenge or anger. I wrote about opportunity, about patience, about building something stronger. Sitting there under the dim light, I realized I had spent years chasing approval from people who would never give it. Maybe it was time to stop asking for a seat at their table. Maybe it was time to build my own. The next time Jolene looked for someone to step on, she wouldn't find a broken woman. She'd find her biggest threat. The night thinned out into the early hours, but sleep never came. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the dim outline of the city skyline through my tiny window. The notebook lay open beside me, blank except for one line scrawled in the center. Stop surviving, start moving. I pulled another file from the drawer, a collection I had quietly built over months. It was filled with discrepancies I had noticed in Jolene's financial statements, misfiled invoices, sponsorships that didn't add up, small things no one else seemed to care about, small things that, strung together, painted a picture she wouldn't want the public to see. I flipped through the pages slowly, my mind sharper than it had been in months. Jolene thrived on appearances. She built her empire on connections, on making people believe she was indispensable. What would happen if those illusions cracked? I didn't want to humiliate her. I didn't even want an apology anymore. I wanted leverage. The following afternoon, the city pulsed with the usual weekday rush. I made my way to a small cafe tucked between two gray buildings near downtown Boston, a place too ordinary for anyone like Jolene to ever notice. I had arranged a consultation under a generic business inquiry. Nothing suspicious, nothing traceable. Sterling Monroe was already seated when I arrived. Dressed simply in a dark blazer and jeans, he looked more like a quiet academic than the influential investor he actually was. His reputation was solid. A man who didn't make public mistakes and didn't suffer fools. Rayanne Whitmore, he greeted me, offering a firm handshake. Or should I just say, Rayanne now? I smiled faintly and sat down. Just Rayanne. We ordered coffees, the usual polite chatter filling the first few minutes, but Sterling wasn't here for small talk, and neither was I. I have information you might find relevant, I said finally, keeping my voice low. Information that could affect several major sponsorship deals tied to next quarter's portfolio. His eyebrows lifted slightly, the only sign of surprise. That's a bold claim. I wouldn't waste your time otherwise, I replied calmly. Sterling studied me for a long moment, as if weighing the risks. Then he leaned back, giving a slow, almost imperceptible nod. Send it when you're ready. If it's as important as you say, it'll be handled. No promises, no threats, just an opening. We finished our coffees without ceremony. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows along the sidewalk as I walked away from the cafe, my steps measured. A chill curled up my spine, not from fear, but from clarity. I had crossed a line that morning without a second thought. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was positioning myself to win. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one reacting. I was the one making the moves. 2 days passed like a gathering storm, quiet but charged with static. I kept my head down at work, answering emails, preparing reports, pretending not to notice the way conversations died when I entered the room. The attack wasn't loud. It was methodical, and it was spreading. That morning, as I adjusted a stack of client files at my cramped cubicle, my phone buzzed. A message from Sable Monroe, my closest ally and one of the few people I trusted. You need to see this. Check your email. My gut twisted. I clicked open the forwarded message. The email was unsigned, sent from a burner account, but the words were unmistakably cruel. It has come to our attention that Rayanne Whitmore may not possess the financial independence or professional credibility required for sensitive partnerships. We advise caution when associating with individuals lacking substantial contributions. My fingers tightened on the mouse. Cold anger rushed through me, fast and sure. This wasn't office gossip. This was a professional execution. Sable appeared at the corner of my desk moments later, her expression grave. "This is bigger than rumors," she said under her breath. "This is meant to freeze you out completely." I nodded once. No dramatics, no scene, just a silent, steely acknowledgement. Jolene wasn't just trying to humiliate me privately anymore. She was trying to erase me professionally. The rest of the day dragged by in a blur. Every smile from a colleague felt thinner. Every conversation clipped shorter. I said nothing. I finished my work with robotic precision, then packed up and left the building without a glance back. As I pushed open the glass doors into the chilly afternoon air, fate decided it wasn't finished with me yet. There she was, Jolene, standing across the lobby in a tailored ivory coat, chatting breezily with one of the sponsors. She spotted me instantly. Her eyes gleamed with a sick sort of satisfaction. She didn't say a word, just smiled. A razor-thin, calculated smile. I kept walking, my heels clicking sharp against the marble, my gaze locked onto hers without flinching. No confrontation, no theatrics. Just an exchange of silent declarations. I see you, and you'll regret thinking you've won. By the time I reached my apartment that evening, exhaustion coated me like a second skin. But I didn't crawl into bed. I didn't drown in self-pity. Instead, I pulled out my notebook again and began flipping through pages of notes, plans, timelines. The old Rayanne would have hoped for an apology. The Rayanne sitting here tonight knew better. If Jolene wanted a war, she'd get one. But this time, it wouldn't be fought in whispers or desperate pleas. It would be fought smart, calculated, and public. If Jolene thought she could erase me with a few rumors, she was about to learn what real erasure looked like. 2 days after I set my plan into motion, the Grand Boston Museum buzzed with the electric tension of another Gala pre-event. I moved through the marble halls with my head held high, my steps measured, ignoring the whispers that still clung to me like fog. Inside the press lounge, velvet ropes separated sponsors, media, and organizers into neat clusters. Cameras flashed. Reporters murmured. Jolene, wrapped in a designer sheath dress, stood poised at the podium like a queen holding court. I leaned against the side wall, arms crossed, watching. With the polished charm of someone rehearsed for battle, Jolene addressed the crowd. "In times of transition," she said sweetly, "it's unfortunate that not every member of a team is able to adapt to the evolving standards of professionalism and dedication. Some misunderstand their roles, some cause unnecessary instability." The words slid like oil over the room, seemingly harmless, but every reporter caught the scent of blood immediately. Heads turned, pens scratched furiously across notepads, cameras tilted subtly toward me. She hadn't said my name. She didn't have to. I felt the heat of dozens of curious stares crawling across my skin. My pulse pounded against my ribs, but I forced myself to breathe slow, deep. This was exactly what she wanted. Me rattled, defensive, cornered. Not today. I pushed off the wall and stepped forward, the room parting around me like a tide. A few reporters straightened, sensing a second headline blooming right in front of them. "I appreciate your attention," I said, voice steady. "But let me say this. Integrity doesn't need defense. It speaks for itself." There was a pause, sharp, bright, before the clicking of cameras began again in earnest. I didn't stay for the follow-up questions. I didn't owe anyone anything. As I exited into one of the side hallways, heart still hammering with controlled fury, I spotted Sable waiting near a service entrance. She slid into step beside me, her voice a low whisper. "Sterling's ready," she murmured. "Just say when—" I nodded once, the muscles in my jaw tightening. Jolene thought she was still controlling the board. She didn't realize the queen was about to fall. If Jolene wanted a war, then I'd make sure she remembered who fired the first real shot. By the time Saturday night arrived, the Grand Boston Museum was already buzzing with the kind of glittering excitement that made headlines. The Gala was the pinnacle event of the year, and Jolene strutted through the ballroom as if she owned every shimmering chandelier. I stayed near the back, a glass of water in hand, blending in with the sea of well-dressed spectators. Sable hovered a few feet away, scanning the room with practiced casualness. Jolene floated from sponsor to sponsor, laughing too brightly, shaking hands too firmly. Her lipstick-perfect smile hid the cracks only I could see now, and tonight the floor beneath her was about to give way. Sterling Monroe arrived fashionably late, as always. A murmur ran through the crowd as he crossed the room, flanked by two senior executives. His presence alone shifted the energy, snapping it taut like a violin string. When the stage lights dimmed for the keynote address, Jolene took her place center stage, soaking in the admiration like a plant drinks sunlight. Then came Sterling. He climbed the steps with deliberate calm, adjusted the microphone, and smiled at the audience, a smile colder than the marble floors underfoot. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice clear and commanding, "at Hawthorne Capital, integrity has always been our foundation. Recent developments, however, have called into question the alignment of certain partnerships with our core values." A ripple of confusion moved through the guests. Jolene's smile twitched, faltered. Sterling didn't give her time to recover. "Effective immediately," he continued. "We are withdrawing all sponsorships and affiliations tied to the current leadership of the Whitmore Foundation." Gasps erupted. Someone dropped a champagne flute. The sharp crash punctuated the silence. Jolene froze. Her face, usually a masterclass in poise, now fought to maintain the illusion. I stood still at the edge of the room, heart pounding, savoring the moment. This wasn't a petty victory. It was a necessary one. As questions exploded from reporters and guests surged toward Sterling, Jolene stumbled off the stage, blinking like someone emerging from a blast. I slipped away quietly, moving toward the balcony. Outside, the cold air bit at my skin, but it felt clean, free. Sable joined me, her expression unreadable. Below us, inside the glittering hall, Jolene's empire crumbled piece by piece, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel gloating satisfaction. I just felt weightless. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming the space Jolene tried so hard to erase me from. The morning after the gala felt strangely still, like the breathless pause before a building collapses. Boston's streets buzzed as usual, but in my veins there was only sharp, quiet anticipation. By mid-afternoon, I got the text, "Meet me, urgent." Sable. I found her at a small cafe tucked between the brick alleys of Beacon Hill, the kind of place that prided itself on serving lattes with artful foam hearts. She was already waiting at a corner table, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she wasn't drinking. When I slid into the chair across from her, she didn't waste time. "She reached out," Sable said, her voice low. I blinked. "Jolene?" Sable nodded grimly. "Tried to buy me off. Promised a spot on some new board she's scrambling to build. Stock options, bonuses. A better future," she said. I could imagine Jolene, leaning in with that faux sincerity she'd perfected over the years. It would have worked on someone else, but not Sable. "What did you tell her?" I asked, even though I already knew. Sable's smile was thin but fierce. "I told her loyalty isn't for sale, especially not to someone digging her own grave." Relief swelled in my chest, pushing away some of the bitterness that had taken up residence there. For the first time, I wasn't fighting alone. Later that evening, back at Sable's office, the second bomb dropped. She slid a flash drive across the desk toward me. "It's out," she said simply. "The files we collected, they're circulating." On the small screen, headlines blinked to life. Local news outlets first, then regional financial journals, then national media. Whitmore Foundation accused of financial misconduct. Sources confirm ongoing investigation. Jolene's name was all over it. Sponsor after sponsor pulled out, statements flooding in, each one severing ties as quickly as possible. Her once pristine empire, built on photo ops and fabricated numbers, was hemorrhaging credibility by the minute. I leaned back in the chair, watching the collapse unfold in real time. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel pity either. It was simply inevitable. Jolene had set this fire herself. All I did was stop trying to put it out. In trying to destroy me, Jolene had only set fire to her own empire. The sky outside my apartment was still heavy with early morning gray when the first headlines began flashing across my phone. Every news alert buzzed like a small jolt of electricity under my skin. Whitmore Foundation implodes. Fraud, lies, and lost fortunes. Jolene Whitmore's glittering empire shattered overnight. Page after page, feed after feed, Her world unraveled in public. Sponsors severed ties with brutal efficiency. Fashion houses, philanthropic partners, even longtime friends issued sharp statements condemning unethical practices and irreparable breaches of trust. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was truth, undeniable, documented, irreversible. I set the phone down carefully on the table, pressing my hands flat against the cool surface. The sensation grounded me. After so many years of being the footnote, the afterthought, the easy scapegoat, the tide had finally turned. Across town, Jolene must have been scrambling to control the inferno, but from the way the headlines multiplied by the minute, she was already too late. Social media finished what the news started. Within hours, influencers who once tagged themselves proudly beside her wiped their profiles clean. Former collaborators posted thinly veiled apologies for prior associations. Old friends unfollowed, deleted, pretended they never knew her. Jolene posted a statement around noon, a bland corporate apology layered in vague language about miscommunications and misunderstandings. It didn't help. The public tore it apart within minutes, flooding her accounts with demands for accountability, with old screenshots, with receipts no apology could erase. Watching it unfold didn't bring me joy. It didn't even bring relief. It simply felt inevitable. By sunset, I sat on the balcony, a warm mug of tea cooling between my palms. Boston's skyline stretched before me, glowing and indifferent. Sable arrived quietly, carrying 2 small glasses and a bottle of cheap champagne. No speeches, no grand declarations, just a clink of glasses under the open sky. We didn't drink to Jolene's fall. We drank to survival, to the quiet strength it took to stand still while the storm raged, and to the knowledge that sometimes the truth didn't need help. It just needed time. I looked out over the city, feeling the last of the bitterness slip away. Sometimes justice isn't about revenge. It's about surviving long enough to watch the truth do what it does best. The weeks that followed unfolded like the slow bloom of spring after a brutal winter. The headlines faded, the anger online cooled, and the city turned its gaze elsewhere. Jolene's name still surfaced now and then, usually tucked into small updates about lawsuits or financial investigations, but the world had moved on. So had I. This morning was different. Standing in front of a modest brick building in South Boston, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. The sign above the door was simple, barely noticeable yet deeply personal. Horizon Strategies. Inside, the space was small but filled with possibility. Mismatched chairs, second-hand desks, a coffee maker that sputtered and hissed like an old friend. I breathed in the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings. I wasn't building an empire. I was building something better. A place where ethics mattered more than connections, where transparency wasn't a slogan but a practice. A place built on my own terms. The small team I'd assembled buzzed with energy as they moved between workstations, setting up laptops and pinning vision boards to the walls. They weren't legacy hires or polished socialites. They were hungry, driven, and above all, they believed. Just like I had once wished someone would believe in me. At lunchtime, Sable arrived carrying a tray of deli sandwiches and a cheap bottle of sparkling cider. We gathered around the scratched-up conference table. No media, no photographers, no performative toasts, just people. "I guess this makes it official," Sable said with a grin, raising her plastic cup. I smiled back, the warmth of belonging softening the edges of old scars. "To new horizons," I said simply. Later, after the laughter had faded and the office settled into a quiet hum, I stepped out onto the small rooftop terrace. The city pulsed below me, alive and endless. Somewhere across town, Jolene was packing her life into boxes, slipping into obscurity under the weight of her own deceit. There would be no dramatic farewell, no final confrontation. She had become irrelevant, a shadow passing through someone else's story. And I had no need to chase it. I closed my eyes, breathing in the cool dusk air, feeling a freedom so deep it ached. I hadn't won by breaking someone else down. I had won by refusing to be broken. The sun dipped behind the skyline, casting everything in gold and rose. I didn't need revenge to find peace. I only needed the courage to choose myself every single day. After everything, if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Your worth is never defined by the people who fail to see it. You don't have to shout to be strong. You don't have to destroy others to prove your value. Sometimes, the quiet work you do, standing tall, building your dreams brick by brick when no one is watching, that's the loudest declaration you'll ever make. If you're fighting your own battles right now, if you've ever felt invisible or underestimated, I want you to remember, you're not alone, and you're stronger than you think. We don't always get justice on the timeline we want, but the truth has patience, and the truth always finds its way. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated and proven everyone wrong? What would you say today to your younger self who doubted their worth? Drop your story or even just a "I'm here" in the comments. Let's build a space where strength is celebrated, not silenced. If this story touched your heart, leave a or tell me where you're watching from. And hey, if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and hopeful, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss what's coming next. Your voice matters here. Your journey matters. Until next time, keep choosing yourself every single day.
I'm the branch manager. You know I can't be bothered with poor folks like you. Just wait over there, will you? I watched as he shooed them away with a dismissive wave. Grandpa's eyes locked onto him in anger. Dan, this isn't good. I tried to stop Grandpa, but it was too late. Grandpa slammed the counter and shouted, "You'll get your just desserts." My name is Mike Smith, and I work from home as a freelance web designer. My family consists of 5 people: my parents, my brother, and my grandpa, who lives with us. I'm not sure if Grandpa knows that I work from home, but he often asks me to do chores for him. Thinking back to when I was a kid, he used to drive me to school and lessons and gave me my allowance, so doing these tasks for him now isn't really a big deal. Since I was young, I've admired my grandpa for his strength and knowledge. He's good at carpentry and gardening. Even now, still look up to him. He's nearing 80, but he's as cool as ever. Today, as usual, he's out tending to his hobby garden. "Mike, I need a favor." "What is it?" "It's finished a part of my work, so I'm free now." Wiping his sweat with a towel, probably just coming in from the garden, Grandpa made his request. "I've been invited to a wedding tomorrow, but I totally forgot to buy a gift. Can you drive me to the bank?" I glanced at the clock. It was showing 2:00 p.m. We were nearing the closing time for the bank's counters. Considering wedding gifts, I needed to buy something for the new couple that would be helpful and luxurious from their wish list. With that thought, I quickly agreed, and we headed to the bank. Grandpa used to drive, but he gave up his license last year. With all the news about accidents involving older drivers, he decided it was better to give it up than be a burden. It was probably harder after Grandma passed. He often said that he couldn't drive without someone to be with him. I remember the day he proudly told me that he'd given up his license, and from then on, I'd be his chauffeur. The bank was crowded, and I braced myself for a long wait. Meanwhile, Grandpa had bumped into some acquaintances and was deeply engrossed in conversation. Grandpa's token number was 75, and the number currently being served was 50. I realized we might be here for a while and scanned the surroundings. It seemed like a small-town bank with a majority of elderly clients. Many were engaged with bank employees with various questions. Just as I was about to pull out my phone to kill time, a loud voice emanated from one of the counters. "You can't withdraw money with this debit card. Bring another one like." "I've been telling you." There stood a bank teller wearing glasses and shaking his hefty belly, raising his voice at an elderly man. This man, dressed in a noticeably high-end suit and watch, lacked any hint of class. The old man, shouted at by him, left the bank looking quite dejected. The next person to be called was an intimidating middle-aged man wearing a gold necklace. He had a lot of tattoos and scars, and wore glasses, looking like the stereotypical mobster. Now the teller was serving him with extreme politeness and lots of bowing. It's quite rare to see someone change their attitude so drastically based on the customer. My gaze shifted to the ATM, where a young lady bank employee was patiently teaching an elderly woman how to use it. Given she's wearing a uniform, she must be a bank employee too. Her gentle smile while assisting customers showed that not all employees at this bank behaved like the rude teller. Several minutes passed as the bank was about to close. The waiting number was around the 70s when I noticed something odd. The rude teller's counter was displaying number 76. He had seemingly skipped Grandpa's number, 75. During a brief lull, I approached the teller. "Excuse me, my number is 75, but it seems like it was skipped." The teller looked annoyed by my question. His name tag read John Nelson. I was curious to see how he would treat me. As expected, he responded dismissively to me, dressed casually in a t-shirt and jeans. "Oh, there wasn't a mistake. There's a priority system here." "Priority system?" "Yeah, bigger transactions are more beneficial for us. Besides, country folks like him probably have plenty of time, right? Just let him wait." I was lost for words because of the teller's rude attitude. Then John was calling over another customer and essentially shooed me away. Angered by his condescending attitude, I returned to Grandpa's seat. Grandpa was patiently waiting while reading a book. "Mike, what happened?" "Well, when I asked the teller why your number got skipped, he told me that country folks probably have plenty of time, so you guys can wait. It pissed me off. That's ridiculous. This branch got a new manager recently. The previous one was nice, but given how this new one lets John behave, I'm not sure about him." Yeah, sudden changes often hint at underlying issues. As we chatted, the kind young lady bank employee from the ATM approached us. Her name tag read Emily Mish. "I'm sorry for the wait. May I see your number, please?" "I'll check it for you." Kneeling to match our eye level, Emily took the number from us. Then she went to John to verify, but he seemed to berate her. I couldn't help but rush over to confront him. "What's the issue?" Seeing me, John sighed loudly. "What is it?" "You again. Can't you wait just a little while?" "But they have been waiting for quite some time." "Quiet down. I told you there's a hierarchy to customers, didn't I?" John interrupted Emily's words with that remark. "I've been saying to prioritize customers who are likely to be profitable for our bank. Consider my orders as coming from the high-ups at the bank. We can put people like the elderly living off their pensions in the countryside on the back burner." I was dumbfounded by his audacity. To my side, Grandpa was sizing up the situation. As John gave Grandpa a mocking look, he continued, "Come on. Elderly folks from places like this probably just hoard their money and waste our time. Their pensions, they're not a big deal for the bank. If you were a banker, you'd be more adaptable. The elderly have plenty of time on their hands anyway. They can wait." I couldn't believe he was a banker with that attitude and retorted, "Are you even a banker? I've never heard of a banker discriminating against customers." "Shut up. I'm the branch manager, and my dad is the bank CEO. The way I do things is the way this bank does things. I can't be bothered with poor folks like you. Just wait your turn." Watching John wave his hand dismissively, Grandpa's eyes fixed on him. This was not good. I tried to stop Grandpa, but it was too late. Grandpa slammed the counter and shouted, "I can't trust a bank with a manager like you. I'll be moving all my deposits, as well as my companies, elsewhere. Arrange the full amount now." With a stern voice, Grandpa made his demand. John looked startled momentarily, but then returned to his condescending smirk. He checked Grandpa's bank account, expecting to find a small balance. His face started turning paler by the second. His face had gone beyond pale, looking almost ashen. What's wrong?" Can't you handle a poor person's savings? I can wait however long it takes. Just get it ready, Grandpa said, then heavily sat in the waiting room chair. John's face turned pale blue. It's no wonder. Grandpa is the CEO of a certain company. He's approaching 80 but is still going strong. He might look like any ordinary elderly man, but when he's at work, he's an imposing figure and quite intimidating. I don't know the details, but his personal assets must be in the several $1,000,000, and the company's funds even more. His company, established by him, is quite big around here and contributes a lot to the community. When he walks around town, many people greet him, and it can take him about 30 minutes to walk just 300 feet because he's chatting with various acquaintances. But it seems the branch manager didn't know about this. He's new to the job, so maybe that can't be helped. But the previous manager had visited our house when he took the position. Maybe John just didn't care enough. It could be said that John's disregard for customers led to this situation. Without saying a word, Grandpa continued to glare at John, not missing a single move. That look must have been absolutely terrifying to anyone on the receiving end of it. I remember when I was little, getting scolded by my grandpa was downright scary, so I can totally relate to that feeling. Off manager and in apparent terror of Grandpa, John screamed and bolted from the place, running out of the bank. He recklessly started running, bolting out of the store. He ran away. Mike, let's contact the main office. That guy said he was the CEO's son. We need to clean all the dirt from under the rug completely, Grandpa said with a smirk. Once he gets like this, nothing can stop Grandpa. He's truly a force to be reckoned with. I was about to call the main office when someone approached us. It was Emily. Sir, I deeply apologize for our manager's behavior. I know it's impertinent, but could we have a moment of your time? What? After that, we learned shocking facts from her. We decided we would take down John completely. We then gathered various documents and prepared everything to close our accounts and headed to the bank's main office. Grandpa had already scheduled an appointment with the bank CEO. Dressed in suits, both Grandpa and I made sure to present ourselves impeccably. Besides my grandpa and me, there were two other slightly stocky employees who joined us for added security. We didn't take my usual car, but instead rode in a black luxury car reserved for the CEO. Upon arriving at the main office, the bank president greeted us with a smile and led us to a meeting room. Sitting there with a fake smile was probably John's father, Paul Nelson. Next to him, in stark contrast to before, was branch manager John with a confident smile, and behind him stood two men in black suits looking like bodyguards. I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience. It seems my foolish son has caused you some trouble. I deeply apologize for the other day. I have reflected on my actions. John Nelson lowered his head. It sounded like a superficial and insincere apology. People don't change that easily, I thought to myself. I took out the documents I had prepared from my bag and spread them out on the desk. I have prepared the cancellation documents here. From now on, we will no longer do business with you. My decision is final and I won't change my mind. You not only insulted me, but also insulted the elderly pensioners in Nebraska and the people living there. I can't trust someone like you, especially if they're the son of the bank president. At Grandpa's words, Paul's smile tightened. John's smile had completely disappeared, and he looked pale and downcast. However, as expected from someone who had risen to the top of a bank, Paul quickly composed himself and began speaking in a soothing voice. Sir, I deeply apologize for John's behavior. I know it's impertinent, but could we have a moment of your time? The president took out a piece of paper from his pocket and placed it on the desk. It was a check for $10 million. It was clearly a bribe. A deep furrow appeared between Grandpa's brows. I'm not someone you can easily fool. If you say it's not enough, I'll add more. I hope this will appease your anger. Paul's hands were rubbing together, trying to get closer to Grandpa, looking utterly sycophantic. I was getting fed up and just wanted to wrap things up and leave. This isn't about the money. Can't you even understand that? Of course, I'll make John resign, but this check is a gesture of my goodwill. Wait, Dad, why am I resigning? John protested. Quiet. It's your responsibility. But wasn't it your policy to increase profits? My branch had good sales. Wasn't that the answer? Just shut up. If you hadn't messed up, we wouldn't be in this mess. There must have been a better way. Excuse me, can I say something? I interrupted the bickering father and son. Regarding the profit your son mentioned, we've received complaints from the residents of Nebraska about aggressive sales tactics for financial products like investment trusts and insurance. Some people even mentioned being scammed into signing contracts. I've consolidated these complaints and consulted with the Better Business Bureau. I expect the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to intervene soon. What? Paul snatched the printout listing the complaints from the desk and checked the contents. I assume many of your clients will be canceling their bank accounts soon, so you better be prepared. And now, here comes the main part. I slowly took out my tablet and began navigating through the files. Displayed were a series of numbers. See this here, here, and here too. These are unauthorized withdrawals. What do you mean? How do you have that data? Well, who knows? I tried to play it cool with a smirk, but the two in front of me were turning red and then pale. Yes, this data was crucial evidence of the bank's wrongdoing. They had created fictitious accounts in John's branch and deposited money into them. Evidence of embezzlement. Furthermore, I operated my tablet again. These are John's stock trading records. On several occasions, he bought a large number of stocks just before their prices rose and then sold them all after the increase. It's so predictable, it's almost funny. This is insider trading, isn't it? Did you leak information to your son? Paul, I also have evidence here. You should be careful with your email exchanges. If you don't delete them regularly, you never know who might read them. Displayed on the tablet were John's email records, leaving such evidence behind. When it came to committing wrongdoings, John was plain knave. This critical information was given to me by someone very special, Emily Mishra. She worked at another bank and was essentially a spy. Sensing something fishy about Paul and John, she discreetly aimed to bring them down. Emily had accessed John's computer, saved the records, and sent the data to me. Moreover, I obtained additional necessary data by hacking. Yes, I'm a white hat hacker who also collaborates with the cybercrime division of the FBI. I had received a request from the FBI to gather information on this case. Thanks to Emily's collaboration, things progressed smoothly. I consulted with a trusted FBI agent and successfully exposed the wrongdoing. Of course, this evidence has also been handed over to the FBI, so agents with arrest warrants should be arriving here soon. When I relayed this to Paul, he collapsed to his knees as if defeated. It's over, he muttered. The outside of the room suddenly became noisy. It seemed the agents had arrived. The two men in front of me were so shocked they could only let out silent screams. The next day, the front pages of newspapers were all about the scandal involving the local bank CEO and his son. It was even covered on national news, making me realize how significant the issue was. Due to the CEO's misconduct and profit-focused policies, the bank's reputation plummeted. Eventually, it was decided that it would be merged with a rival bank, of course, the bank where Emily worked. In the end, whether it was the arrest of the CEO and his son that put Grandpa at ease or not, he didn't move his deposit to another company. Well, it involved a significant amount of money, so maybe that was for the best. While glancing at the talk show discussing the bank scandal, Grandpa and I were sipping tea. I slowly drank the piping hot tea and nibbled on some cookies. Even though Grandpa turned 80 this year, he still had strong teeth to crunch on hard cookies. He's so lively that I'm sure he'll live a long life. I hope so. I want him to live up to around 150. By the way, Mike, how's Emily doing? Upon hearing Grandpa's words, I almost spit out my tea. But Grandpa, why do you ask? There's nothing I don't know. So, how's she? Oh, we just text on Messenger. That's all. Since then, I exchanged contacts with Emily and became friends. She's considerate and has a great sense of humor, so it's always fun talking to her. Right now, she's one of my good friends. You could at least invite her for dinner, right? I'd love to hold my great-grandchild. All right, all right. You're going to live another 70 years, right, Grandpa? Maybe even see your great-grandchild's child. Well, as much as I'd like to think so, 150 years might be pushing it. But with advancements in medicine, who knows? It seems Grandpa has plans to live a long life. I'd love to see him in the Guinness World Records. Before I knew it, the news had moved on to another topic. Upon noticing, Grandpa, with a huff, stood up and grabbed his straw hat for the garden. Looking at him, he's just a regular old man, and I never guessed the authority he once held. He's kind to those around him and well-liked, but when it comes down to it, he's super cool. I hope to be like Grandpa someday. I never want to be blinded by money, look down on others, or commit crimes. I made a silent vow to become an upright person just like Grandpa, someone even his own grandchildren can look up to. This is the end for you. What are you doing? Open this door, please. And what do you mean by the end? I just turned off the breaker downstairs. Now the elevator won't work, and you can't get down from the second floor. What? What are you talking about? I'm heading out on a 7-night, 8-day trip with my friends. The fake mom can starve on the second floor. Hey, stop joking and open the door. I could open it, but you can't get down to the first floor by yourself. Your smartphone and computer are downstairs, so you can't call for help. Dad's on a business trip and won't be back for 3 months. The situation looks pretty hopeless. My husband's daughter, Emily, really left me, a wheelchair user, stranded on the second floor and went on her trip. This was crossing a line. A week later, when Emily returned home, she felt something was off as she climbed the stairs. Why are you looking so chipper? It seemed Emily couldn't grasp the situation, so I decided to explain it to her. This would probably be my last lesson to her as a mother, so I took my time explaining carefully. My name is Jennifer. I'm a 34-year-old programmer, just a regular person with a job, a marriage, and kids. But there's one thing that sets me apart. I've been wheelchair-bound since a traffic accident in middle school. When the accident happened, I was unconscious for 3 days and bedridden for treatment afterward. When I woke up, I didn't realize for a while that my legs had stopped working. I only knew my legs were paralyzed when my mom broke the news to me. Mom, when will I start rehab? I want to play basketball again soon. If I take it easy, I might lose my spot on the team. Think the doctor will have something to say, but the truth is, I cried all day after hearing the cruel reality from my mom. It must have been hard for her to tell me. She cried with me all day, but my tomboyish, mischievous, and lively nature helped me bounce back quickly. Well, what's done is done. What matters is what comes next. Life in a wheelchair was inconvenient, but not as bad as I had imagined. Over 20 years have passed since the accident, and I've adapted so well to wheelchair life that it surprises people. I still have some upper body strength, so I can manage the bathroom alone if I try. I chose a company understanding of my wheelchair needs and now mainly work from home. I go to the office about 2 or 3 times a month for meetings, commuting by car. I tried myself using a specially adapted vehicle that can be operated solely with my hands, and sometimes I'd go for drives on weekends. I enjoyed wheelchair basketball in my 20s. There have been challenges, but overall, I'm satisfied with my life and even managed to get married, something I had given up on because of my disability. Does this setup work for you? Your parents' house seemed more elaborate. That was just my parents going overboard because they weren't sure what I needed. This is enough for me. We just need to install a lift for the stairs. I can't install a lift myself. Guess we'll have to wait for the professionals. I married Kevin, who is 7 years older, just last year. Our meeting wasn't dramatic, just a typical workplace romance. After getting married, Kevin and I rented a house and made it wheelchair accessible with permission. Wheelchair accessible meant simple things like installing portable ramps and handrails. The only major addition was a rail lift for getting to the second floor. And that's how our sweet newlywed life began. Or at least that's what we thought. I'm home, Jennifer. What's for dinner? Weren't you with your mom today? Didn't you eat anything there? She said she had some errand and left early. Oh dear, you should have told me. If you needed dinner, I'd always say that. Am I sorry about that? My husband Kevin is a divorcee with a child, but his daughter Emily is already an 18-year-old college student. I've known her since before we got married, and we have a good relationship. She calls me Jennifer. Emily also gets along well with Kevin's ex-wife Mindy, meeting her sometimes and distinguishing her as mom. Despite potential issues like my disability or the dynamics with Emily, I felt joy that our family life started without any trouble. But unbeknownst to me, seeds of trouble were growing behind the scenes. A year into our marriage, Emily, who had been friendly, became increasingly distant, now barely conversing. Welcome back. Do you want dinner? No, I don't. Upon returning home, Emily would go straight to her room on the second floor, hardly coming out. It's hard for me to go upstairs without the lift, so my life is centered around the first floor. I only go upstairs about once a month to retrieve clothes or items from the storage room. For Emily, avoiding me, the second floor is a convenient refuge. I have no idea why my daughter has become distant towards me. I'd even discussed this with my husband. Did I do something to make Emily dislike me? You can't think of anything, right? No, nothing at all. We were so close before, even when we first moved into this house. She talks to me just like she always has. Why this sudden change? It wasn't sudden. It started about a month after moving in here. Maybe living with me made her upset? Probably not. She's known about your disability since before we married. Kevin and I were at a loss, not understanding why Emily's attitude changed. Without knowing the cause, we couldn't solve it, so I tried talking to her, but it seemed that wasn't the best approach. Oh, you're home early today. I'd only had 2 classes. Wait a moment. I stopped Emily as she was about to go upstairs. What? Emily turned to me with a face somewhere between anger and no expression. I couldn't tell her feelings, but her annoyance was clear. We haven't talked much lately. Is something going on at college, or is it something to do with me? If you're troubled, you can tell me anything. Don't act like a mom. It's annoying. Emily mumbled and went upstairs. I thought I must have misheard. It was hard to believe she would say something so cruel. I convinced myself it was a misunderstanding, trying to ease the shock. That night, I discovered the reason behind Emily's coldness and reported it to Kevin. It seems I'm the cause. She said, don't act like a mom. It's annoying. What? Emily said that. Kevin was furious, leading to a family meeting. After hearing my side of the story, my husband loudly called for our daughter from the bottom of the stairs. Summoned by her father, she came to the living room with a sulky expression and sat down. Emily, I heard you said something awful to Jennifer. Why would you say that? Jennifer, she's not my mom. She's just a fake mom to me. Isn't this how you treat a fake mom? How can you say that? Kevin looked ready to explode. Please, don't yell. I interjected. If my husband lost his temper here, we wouldn't be able to hear our daughter's side and resolve the issue. Suppressing the shock of being called a fake mother, I urged my husband to stay calm. Kevin regained his composure and continued. Why did you suddenly start saying that? You never used to. When I thought about it, it's weird. Dad divorced Mom and remarried within a year. You must have been cheating with Jennifer while still married, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I've known Jennifer for over 10 years. We worked together. That's why we got married quickly. And about cheating, Dad was always busy with work, leaving Mom lonely. Maybe the divorce was partly your fault too, Dad. Emily, Kevin's a busy software engineer. His work is for the family. I tried to explain. Shut up. It's all your fault. You ruined our lives. My daughter screamed, slamming the table. She stood up quickly and stormed out of the living room. I didn't understand why she would think such a thing, but it seems she believes I stole her father from his ex-wife. I think I kind of understand the reason now. Let's leave it at that for today. Emily seems to be misunderstanding something, so Jennifer, just keep your distance from Emily for now. I'll clear up her misunderstanding. I decided to trust my husband's words and leave it to him. However, despite his attempts to clear up our daughter's misunderstanding, she was no longer willing to listen. Why are you so cold to your mom? How long are you going to stick with that fake mom nonsense? Just get a divorce already. What do you dislike so much? It's her very existence. The fake mom. When my husband talked to our daughter, she would confront me when he wasn't looking. You told Dad to talk to me again, didn't you? Don't get too comfortable just because you have him on your side. That's not true. How can I believe anything from you who stole Dad from Mom? My daughter kicked the laundry I had folded. With my mobility issues, it was a struggle to pick up the clothes that were kicked out of my reach. Knowing this, she deliberately kicked the pile from the bottom to make the clothes fly further. Watching the scattered laundry, she seemed satisfied and went upstairs. While I picked up what I could reach, my husband would scold our daughter, who would then take it out on me. This pattern had become the routine. To resolve my daughter's misunderstanding, we needed to keep talking, so this cycle would likely continue. However, just when I was preparing to keep dealing with my daughter patiently, my husband's long business trip was unfortunately scheduled. I'm sorry to leave you two alone while this is still unresolved. It's work, so it can't be helped. Maybe the company thinks it's okay because I'm too tough. Maybe I should be the one apologizing to you. It's okay if resolving things with Emily gets pushed back 2 or 3 months. I sent my husband off with a smile, not wanting to worry him more than necessary. Honestly, I felt uneasy about being alone with my daughter for 3 months, but there hadn't been any physical violence, so I shouldn't be overly anxious. That's what I thought. But my daughter's behavior escalated quickly once my husband was out of the house. 3 days after he left for his business trip. Why is the picnic blanket here? Maybe Emily was using it, but she seemed to have left earlier. Decided it was okay to tidy up the picnic blanket and took it to the storage room upstairs. As I went upstairs, I heard the front door open. Is Emily back already? Curious about my daughter, but continuing to the storage room. Placed the picnic blanket inside. Suddenly, the door to the storage room slammed shut. This is the end for you. What are you doing? Open this door. It seemed I had fallen into my daughter's trap. She was holding the door from the outside, and I couldn't budge it from my wheelchair. However, the storage room door didn't have a lock. She couldn't keep holding it forever. So what did she mean by the end for me? Do you want me to open it? I'll open it soon. But first, just listen to me. I don't want to see your face, and you move surprisingly quickly for someone in a wheelchair. She locked me in the storage room to avoid any retaliation from me. Indeed, being physically trained in basketball, I could understand her caution, but apart from that, her decision wasn't very wise. Do you think I'm going to hit you? And what do you mean by the end? Just turned off the breaker downstairs. Now the elevator won't work and you can't get down from the second floor. What? What are you talking about? I'm going on a 7-night, 8-day trip with my friends. So I'll help you in a week. Starve on the second floor. Fake mom. Hey, stop joking. Open the door. I can open it, but you can't get down to the first floor alone. Your smartphone and computer are downstairs, so you can't call for help. And Dad's on a business trip and won't be back for 3 months. The situation looks pretty hopeless. Why are you doing something so terrible? Because you stole Dad from Mom. Just get a divorce already. Then Mom can remarry Dad. She even broke up with her boyfriend thinking Dad would come back to her. If she knew about Mom's feelings, Kevin would never remarry Mindy. What do you know? Good luck surviving. The sound of hurried footsteps faded away. Emily must have run out of the house. When I opened the door of the storage room, no one was there. I stepped into the hallway and headed towards the stairs. Passing by Emily's room, I noticed a board about 8 inches high fixed at the bottom of her door. It was made so the door could be opened, but I couldn't enter the room in my wheelchair. Emily had found a clever way to trap me on the second floor while also maintaining her privacy. Reaching the stairs, I found a few pieces of bread and a bottle of water on the floor, likely a precaution to ensure I didn't starve to death. However, while I could drink tap water for hydration, the bread was clearly not enough for a week. Her intent to starve me seemed serious. This had crossed a line. I resolved to teach Emily and whoever orchestrated this situation a harsh lesson. A week later, Emily returned from her trip. I secretly observed her taking off her shoes at the entrance. Hiding at the back of the room, she stepped into the house and started looking around, sensing something different about the house today. The stair lift was on the first floor, and there were unusual shoes at the entrance. However, my daughter, seemingly oblivious, felt something was off but couldn't quite put her finger on it. As usual, she quickly went upstairs, unaware of the exact cause of her unease. I followed her, and halfway up the stairs, heard her loud voice. "Why are you here?" "Shall I explain?" "What? How come you're looking so well?" Emily was surprised to see me peeking from the storage room and even more startled when I spoke from behind her. My daughter, in a state of constant surprise and confusion, widened her eyes and stared at me, desperately trying to make sense of the situation. "You're not starving at all." "Of course I'm not. You might have thought you trapped me on the second floor, but that wasn't really a trap." "But wasn't the stair lift supposed to be unusable?" "The lift is battery powered, so it works even when the breaker is off. It's a standard feature for power outage situations." Then, yes, right after you left for your trip, I went downstairs using the lift. Even if it hadn't worked, I could have asked for help from a window. As for the breaker, I usually use a stick to reset it, so no issues there. And thanks for the bread, by the way. It made a nice snack. Emily had grown cold towards me about a month after moving in. Because she reduced her interactions with me early on, she never fully understood the extent of my mobility limitations. Even after living together for a year, she didn't fully grasp how the stair lift worked. Right after she left for her trip, I went downstairs as usual and immediately called Kevin to report what had happened. When Emily learned that I wasn't starving, she quickly looked towards the storage room and pointed to a person sitting there in shock, shouting, "Why is Mom here? And why is she sitting like that? What are you up to?" "I'll explain that. My husband had been standing right next to the storage room door all this time, But Emily was too shocked by the sight of her mother and me to notice him. So she yelled out in surprise again, "Dad, why are you here? Aren't you on a business trip?" "Huh, it's not an overseas trip. It's Sunday, and I'm off work, so it's not strange for me to be home," he replied. Emily's naive question seemed to perplex my husband. At 19, and with only part-time job experience, she had assumed that a long-term business trip meant he couldn't come home often. However, his business trip was just a 3-hour drive away, and he planned to return home every 2 weeks. Today, a bit earlier than scheduled, he came back due to the situation with Emily. "I heard from your mother about the nonsense you've been up to in telling me to divorce. Yes, it's all because of this fake mom. If she wasn't here, Mom and Dad could remarry. I'm never getting a divorce, and I won't remarry Mindy." "Why not? The reason for the divorce might be Mom's affair. But wasn't it also because you were always working? Besides, Mom can't forget you. She's repented and left her affair partner, waiting for you." Hearing Emily's words, my husband and I sighed. Mindy, unable to bear the tension, bowed her head, staring at the floor. "Mindy, explain it yourself. That's why I brought you here." "Yes, the affair was not because of your work. It was just me enjoying playing around with men," Mindy confessed. "Lies, right? You said the affair was because of Dad's work and that you left the other man because you couldn't forget Dad. It's not like that. I was dumped again because of my infidelity. I've always had a low income from part-time jobs. Over 40 now. I can't find a new job or catch a new man. Struggling for money. I thought of getting help from Kevin again, but then I heard he remarried." "So you fed Emily lies about me having an affair with Jennifer even before the divorce, trying to disrupt our life and set the stage for a divorce." "Yes, that's true." When Emily locked me upstairs, Mindy had mentioned wanting to remarry Kevin. So, after hearing from me, Kevin immediately contacted Mindy. Upon confronting her, it became clear she had been manipulating Emily. The quickest way to clear Emily's misconception that I stole Kevin from Mindy was to let her hear the truth from Mindy herself. Therefore, Kevin arranged for Mindy to be at the house when Emily returned from her trip. What? So I was deceived by Mom? It seemed as if Mindy was the mastermind and Emily a victim. But even if deceived, Emily had crossed a clear line, so Kevin prepared to take a firm stand. "Mindy is at fault for deceiving Emily, but you're also wrong. You went too far. Don't come back to this house. What do you mean I was deceived?" Emily's voice was indignant ***. "Even if you were deceived, you tried to starve your mother by locking her upstairs. If the lift hadn't worked, you could have been arrested for unlawful confinement. But I didn't know about the lift. It's not fair. You can't just kick me out. I'm only 19. Kevin's expression was stern. "In the eyes of the law, you're an adult at 18. Parental rights have already ended. You're not a child who can be indulged anymore." "What do you mean? I'm still a student and can't do anything, and yet I'm considered an adult. That's the law. If you have a complaint, take it up with the government. We'll pay for your college tuition until you graduate, but you need to figure out your own living arrangements and expenses." Emily's eyes filled with desperation. "That's impossible. Hey, I can go live with Mom, right? She'll take care of me, won't she?" Mindy shook her head. "I can't. I'm struggling financially and tried to use you to get help. I can't possibly take care of you." Emily's face turned red with frustration. "Regardless of what the law says, I'm still a child. Parents should take responsibility. Make up for deceiving me." Rejected by Kevin, Emily had no choice but to turn to her mother, Mindy, who was living in tight circumstances. Knowing her lack of options, Emily had to rely on Mindy. "I can at least stay in the house, right?" Emily's voice wavered. "If you move in, I'll end up having to take care of your living expenses." Mindy replied, I can see where this is going. I'm not like you. No, you're the same as me. You're my daughter after all. An ugly, self-deprecating argument unfolded before us. I wish they would stop fighting in someone else's home. Excuse me, can you take this discussion elsewhere? Emily and Mindy left the house without a word. It felt a bit pitiful, but Kevin was right. Emily was no longer a child. She might have endangered my life if things had gone differently. Making her realize the gravity of her actions is also a parent's duty. I watched her leave, hoping for her growth in the future. In the end, Emily moved in with Mindy. Mindy was living in a cramped, cheap apartment due to her financial situation. Emily moving in meant a cramped life with no privacy. Mindy told Emily to contribute to some of the living expenses like rent and utilities. Since Kevin wouldn't provide anything other than tuition, Emily had to pay these expenses from her part-time job earnings. But as a student, she couldn't always work. Most of her earnings went to living expenses, leaving her no money to hang out with friends. It must be tough for her at an age when socializing is everything. She might even lose friends due to being seen as unsociable. Well, she should accept this as a consequence of her actions. Mindy's life became a bit easier now that she received some financial help from Emily. But instead of getting a full-time job, she continued working part-time. Emily, frustrated by the lack of money, often argued with her, "You should get a full-time job, not just part-time. You're planning not to pay living expenses once my income increases, aren't you?" They often had these kinds of arguments about money. Kevin seems open to supporting Emily as she shows remorse, but that appears to be a ways off. With Emily gone, our life as a couple has begun. Though we've been married for over a year, it feels like we're newlyweds again. We're enjoying our time together, finding peace and joy in each other's company after the tumultuous year we've had.
Hello, my name's Juliet, and I'm 31 years old. I just made one of the most difficult decisions of my life, but now I'm much happier because of it. Let me start by telling you about my ex-husband, Austin. We met through some mutual friends and hit it off right away. We started dating soon after we met and had a great relationship. We rarely fought and understood each other well. When we reached our 1-year anniversary, Austin decided it was time for me to meet his mother. "Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you. So, how long have you and Austin been together?" she asked. "We've been together for about 3 years now," I replied. "Austin, you were with Chelsea for 6 years and never asked her to marry you," his mom said. "Mom, drop it," Austin interrupted. "Who's Chelsea?" I asked, confused. "Chelsea was my girlfriend through high school and college. They were perfect for each other. Chelsea was the sweetest, most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. I was sure they would get married," his mom explained. "Mom, you know we had our differences and split. Besides, can we focus on Juliet right now?" Austin said. "So, what do you do for a living?" his mom asked me. "I'm an accountant, so Austin will never struggle with finances or taxes," I said. "That sounds boring." "Chelsea is doing her PhD in language studies while traveling around the world," his mom responded. "Wait, really?" I said, surprised. "Oh yeah, I never told you I was still in contact with her. Whether you marry her or not, she'll always be my daughter-in-law in my eyes," his mom said. "But I'm going to be your daughter-in-law in reality," I pointed out. "If Austin and Chelsea couldn't last, I guess you're a good enough backup for him," she said. "Backup? I'm not his backup," I said, feeling hurt. "Things are getting too heated. Why don't we drop the topic and focus on something else?" Austin suggested. "All I'm saying is that Austin can do better than Juliet. Chelsea is still single, and I'm sure now that they've grown, they can get back together," his mom insisted. "Are you seriously trying to set my fiancé up with another woman right in front of me?" I asked, shocked. "Mom, that's enough. Julia, be respectful and don't talk to my mom that way. Can we please just resume dinner?" Austin said. I was genuinely shocked by what had happened. I heard horror stories about your partner's parents not liking you, but I never expected this. For Austin's mom to try to get him back with his ex while I was sitting right there was shocking. I could tell that what Rosa said had an effect on Austin. He started acting differently. I caught him looking at Chelsea's social media, deciding whether to follow her. When I confronted him, he apologized and said he was just curious. After that, he stopped thinking about her. A year passed, and I limited my interactions with Rosa. Whenever I saw her, she would compare me to Chelsea and give Austin updates about her. This affected him, and we fell into a cycle. He got upset. I confronted him, and he forgot about it. Despite this, Austin asked me to marry him, and I said yes because I loved him. The wedding went smoothly, and I thought a good wedding meant a good marriage, but I was wrong. Rosa's comments about me not being like Chelsea got worse, and Austin never stopped her. Nothing I did was good enough. I endured it all because I loved Austin. Then Rosa stopped mentioning Chelsea, and Austin didn't seem distant anymore. I was glad things were improving until I found some texts between Austin and Chelsea. Austin, we need to talk. Uh-oh, did I do something wrong? I don't know. You tell me. Look at these texts. Hold on, were you going through my phone? I didn't mean to, but when I went to charge your phone last night, a text from Chelsea popped up. Mind explaining why you're texting her? Are you accusing me of cheating? I'm not, but I'm asking why you're in contact with your ex. Mom gave her my number, and she started texting me. Why did you tell her you were single when she asked? This is going to sound stupid, but I just wanted to see how she would reply. You're right, it's stupid. It's so stupid to think telling your ex you're single wouldn't jeopardize our marriage. Come on, babe. It was just a harmless text. I didn't mean it. I just wanted to know her true intentions. And what were you going to do about what you found out? See her secretly behind my back? No, I would never do that. Where is all this jealousy coming from? You know how I feel about Chelsea. Your mom has made it worse by reminding me that I'll never be what Chelsea was to you. She's right. Chelsea fulfills a different role in my life, and you fulfill another. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. Are you going to meet Chelsea? Why would you ask that? She texted asking to meet up. I don't know. You don't know. Shouldn't the answer be clear? Yes, but I really do want to see how life has treated her. Actions speak louder than words. If you meet her, I'll know I was never valued. Julia, no, that's not what I meant. I was furious. Austin barely tried to assure me that I was the only one that mattered. He didn't defend me in front of his mother, and when we were alone, he still didn't tell me that I mattered to him. Why would he lie to Chelsea about being single and try to meet her behind my back? I didn't speak to Austin for a week. Every time I saw him, I felt immense rage and sadness. I didn't want to talk to him feeling that way. When we finally talked, Austin said he wouldn't meet Chelsea, but it felt like he resented me for forcing him not to go. I was tired of his lack of care, but I was glad he chose our marriage over his ex. Eventually, I went back to being my normal self. Austin and I worked on our relationship because we were at a breaking point and wanted us to last. At least I thought both of us did. When Thanksgiving came around, Rosa invited us and her other children and their families for a big Thanksgiving feast. When we arrived, Rosa greeted us at the door. Hi, Austin. Hi, Juliet. Happy Thanksgiving. Hi, Mom. It sure smells nice here. Hi, Rosa. Happy Thanksgiving. If you don't mind me asking, why is Chelsea, Austin's ex, here? You know that girl is part of the family. She had nowhere to go for Thanksgiving, so I invited her. Oh, that's nice. I can't wait to catch up with her. You're going to have a blast learning about her life. So much has happened since you broke up. Rosa, you know I don't like Chelsea. She tried to ruin my relationship with Austin. Why would you invite her? First of all, this is my house and I can invite whoever I want. Secondly, stop being a big baby about it. She and Austin aren't getting back together anytime soon. Babe, I love that you're a little jealous, but I'm sure Chelsea has changed. I mean, look at her. She looks like a whole new person. I just don't feel comfortable with this. You know what? Since you're so uncomfortable, you can sit at the kids' table, Rosa said. What? Why? I asked, feeling confused and hurt. I don't want your negative energy ruining things for us at our table. You can sit with the kids and be as fussy as you like. Austin, are you going to say something to me? I pleaded. Sorry, babe. Mom owns the house, so she gets what she wants. You go sit with the kids. I have some catching up to do, Austin replied dismissively. Oh, and Juliet, if you throw even a single tantrum right now, I will have you thrown out of the house and never invited over again. Got it? Why are you doing this? You know these things hurt me, and you still do them. Do you enjoy seeing me uncomfortable? I asked, my voice breaking. Is that a tear I see? Just go sit at your table, Rosa said coldly. I was humiliated. I couldn't believe I was being treated like a child. What had I done to deserve this kind of treatment? Austin didn't even care. He was too engrossed with Chelsea to notice how hurt I looked. Rosa smirked at me as she ushered Austin away to the adults' table. I felt tears pricking my eyes, but I refused to cry. I wasn't going to give Rosa the satisfaction of knowing she had an impact on me. So I picked up my pride and went to sit at the kids' table. Thankfully, the kids were lovely. Most of them were between 11 to 14, so I could actually hold conversations with them. However, every time I looked over at the adults' table, I saw Austin and Chelsea getting along a little too well. Chelsea constantly had her hand on Austin, and she laughed at everything he said. Austin looked like he was having the time of his life. I felt like my skin was crawling. How could Austin behave that way when he knew his wife was seated just a few feet away? Needing a break from the kids and the sight of Austin and Chelsea, I walked into the kitchen to get a tall glass of cold water. That's when Austin's dad, Wade, walked in. So, why are you sitting with the kids? Did you volunteer to babysit for us tonight? Wade asked, clearly puzzled. Oh no, Rosa asked me to sit there. What? Why? Apparently, it was wrong of me to be uncomfortable with Chelsea being here. Why would it be wrong? Hell, even I'm uncomfortable with her being here. I know I wouldn't want any of Rosa's exes here on Thanksgiving. Tell me about it. It just hurts to see Austin not even care about it. He's so caught up with catching up with her that he doesn't even notice how hurt I am. Yeah, I completely agree. This isn't how I raise my son. Do you want to say something? I would, but Rosa threatened to kick me out, so I don't want to cause a scene. What? Why would she kick you out? I guess I'm used to it. Why in the world are you used to it? Rosa has never really liked me. What? No, that's nonsense. She loves you. I can assure you she does not. She's made it clear on several occasions that I will never compare to Chelsea. I watched their relationship, and let me tell you, you're a million times better than her. Thanks, Wade. How come I've never heard all this before? You're almost always working, and Rosa threatens me to keep my mouth shut. Yeah, that tracks. How come Austin hasn't said anything? Austin can never seem to disrespect his mother. He tells me to just go with the flow to avoid any conflict. Why would you avoid conflict when you're the one that's constantly getting hurt? I wish I could tell you, Wade. You know what? I'm going to deal with this. I'm not going to let you suffer like this. No, I don't think you should. It'll only make things worse for me. I highly doubt that. Listen, I know I'm only your father-in-law, but I think you should reconsider things with Austin. You deserve a man who will always stand up for you, not someone who puts you down just to avoid conflict. I know, I just can't begin to imagine starting over again. Anything's better than you being treated like a doormat. You're right, I'll think about it. Good, now let me take care of things here. Deep down, I knew Wade was right. How long could I survive always being second to Austin? If he didn't make me feel that way, then Rosa certainly did. She never failed to tell me how I could never measure up to Chelsea. And whenever she did, Austin never stood up for me or reassured me that there was nothing to worry about. After my conversation with Wade, I got lost in my thoughts. I went back to the kids' table and sat there, thinking about what it would be like to start over. The process of divorce seemed scary, but getting one I felt like a failure. I couldn't even make my marriage last. I knew it wasn't my fault, but the feeling still lingered. I was pulled out of my thoughts when Wade declared he had an announcement to make. I didn't know what he was going to say, and I was not prepared for it. Wade stood up and began thanking everyone present. He then expressed his wish for the family to be more open and welcoming. He said he felt ashamed of how I was being treated by Rosa and Austin. Both Rosa and Austin turned red in the face. Wade went on to talk about how Rosa couldn't let go of Austin's previous relationship, making my life miserable. He also criticized Austin for not standing up to his mother and enabling her behavior. Wade told everyone he was embarrassed by Rosa's actions and announced he was going to divorce her. Everyone gasped. I was shocked that Wade would do something like that because of me. Rosa did not take it well. She began yelling at him, asking how he could say something so horrific on a day that was supposed to be happy. When she realized Wade was serious, she began to cry and beg him to take her back. Wade looked at her with disgust and said he didn't want to be with someone so cruel. He then revealed that Rosa had been secretly meeting her ex-boyfriend for the past year. He had suspected them but was always told they were just co-workers and old school friends. One day, Wade came home early and caught them in bed. He never confronted her, but he took pictures as proof and left the house. Rosa looked pale and her sobbing intensified. Wade told her she was projecting her actions onto Austin, which was not okay. Rosa kept begging, but Wade just put his drink down, took his coat, and left the house. The entire room was silent. Everyone was still reeling from the shock. The rest of the dinner did not go well. Rosa was too embarrassed to stay, and slowly everyone left. Austin told me he was going to stay the night with his mother because he didn't know if she would do something to herself. I was glad he was going to be away from me because I needed time to think. On the drive home, I thought about Wade and the courage he had to stand up for himself. I realized I needed to do the same. If Wade could end a decades-long relationship because he knew his worth, so could I. I knew I deserved better. That night, I slept better, knowing that I would soon have the peace I always wanted. Austin came home the next evening looking exhausted. He confided in me, but I wasn't ready to care about what he was saying. "Oh, I can't believe my parents are getting a divorce right now," he said. "Yeah, can you believe the things Dad revealed? My mom's a mess. Thankfully, Chelsea is there to look after her. I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce." "What? You want a divorce because I mentioned Chelsea looking after my mother?" "No. I want it because you have repeatedly let me be walked all over by your mother. When she praised your ex, you never once came to my defense, not to mention how you repeatedly hid and lied to me about your conversations with Chelsea. You know I can't go against my mother. That's the one thing that will never change. And as for my conversations with Chelsea, they were all harmless. Nothing explicit. Standing up for your wife when she's being ridiculed is not going against your mother, Austin. I don't care that those texts were clean. What matters is that you kept up the conversation with her even after I told you it made me uncomfortable. Well, I'll change. I promise. I'll be a better husband, I'll stand up for you, and I'll cut all contact with Chelsea. Just please don't leave me," Austin pleaded. "I'm afraid I don't want to make any reparations to us. I want out. I've dealt with this for too long. I have this deep-seated resentment towards you that I don't think will ever go away. How could you just throw away a 6-year relationship like this? Don't I mean anything to you? You did until you showed me that I meant nothing as long as Chelsea was there. If I truly meant something, you would have stood up for me yesterday instead of letting me sit at the kids' table. Do you know how humiliating that was? I'm sorry, okay? I got a little carried away with the idea of catching up with Chelsea. That wouldn't have happened if you just let me meet her before," Austin tried to explain. "Are you seriously blaming your crappy actions and decisions on me? I told you that you were free to meet her. The only thing is that you'd have to face the consequences of your actions, and that would be a broken marriage. Whatever, I'll change. Just don't leave me. I've already started the filing process. I'll move out by the end of the month. Please don't bother me until then." "Oh please, where will you even go?" "Your dad offered to let me stay with him." "Wait, what? Since when were you and my dad so close?" "Since he was the only one to treat me right and tell me I deserve better than you. Now I'm leaving. Goodbye, Austin." Nothing felt as liberating as putting Austin in his place. It hurt to do it, but I knew it was the best thing for me. Seeing him look hurt and upset gave me a sense of vindication. I spent years tormented by his mother, his ex, and he never stood up for me. Finally, he got a taste of his own medicine. It hurt that he valued his ex over me, and in the end, he would probably go back to her. But I knew firsthand what kind of man Austin was, and all I could say to Chelsea was, "All the best. He's your problem now." I moved out of our house that weekend and into Wade's. We spent a lot of time grieving the loss of our relationships. I felt bad that I was the reason his relationship ended, but he assured me that I only helped him see the truth about his wife. We slowly started to get better, but it took many long conversations, ice cream, and crappy movies. My life has slowly begun to improve. There are still days when I wake up missing Austin like crazy, but then I remember how I felt when I was with him, and I no longer miss him. I've decided to move away from this town because everywhere I go reminds me of Austin and me. I managed to find a good job in another state, and I'll be leaving in a month. I'm moving on to bigger and better things now. I can't wait to start a new life and fully heal. Thanks for listening. Hello, my name's Hazel, and I'm a 29-year-old woman. The past few months have been a wild ride, and my life is at a major turning point right now. I thought it was a good time to share my story with the world. Let's start with my career. I always wanted to work in medicine because growing up, I idolized my uncle, who was a well-known pediatrician. I worked really hard on my studies and didn't pay much attention to anything else, including dating. After many years of studying, I finally became an on-call nurse. While I enjoyed my career, I felt very lonely. About a year after becoming a nurse, I met my husband, Casey, through a dating app. I wasn't a big fan of dating apps, but I was tired of only meeting people at work. Casey and I had great chemistry over text, but I was nervous about meeting him in person because people can be different in real life. Thankfully, Casey was just as great in person, and we had a wonderful time together. We planned a second date for the next weekend, and after dating for 2 years, we decided to get married. We had a small, beautiful wedding, which was one of the best days of my life. A few months after our wedding, Casey got a call from his father, Derek. Derek had struggled with type 2 diabetes for a long time, and his health was getting worse. He also had other illnesses. Every time Derek called, I got a little scared, worrying it might be bad news about his health. This time, it was. Casey talked to his dad for a long time before telling me about the conversation. I just got off the phone with my dad, Casey said. Is everything okay? I asked. Not really, he replied. His health is getting worse. Oh man, what do you plan on doing about it? I was thinking we could move in with him. He needs 2 injections every day, and you're a nurse. Plus, he won't be alone at home. Why would you think I wouldn't be on board with that? I asked. We just got married a few months ago, and I'm already asking you to help take care of my father. A lot of people would be upset with that. Sure, but I'm not like that. Besides, I adore your father and want him to live a long life. If I can help him, why wouldn't I? Thank you so much. You have no idea how much this means to me. Hush now, we'll stay with him until he gets better. How about we move in this weekend? I would ask him to move in here, but he has a whole house while we live in an apartment, and it would be too cramped. Honey, calm down. I'm okay with this. Let's get some sleep tonight and work out the details tomorrow. Yes, I'll call my dad now and inform him about our plans. Okay. I was actually glad to be able to help Derek. After all, he was family now, and I knew how to care for him. Casey talked to his father, and we decided to move in that weekend. Casey was very concerned. I was worried about the move deep down inside, but Casey kept checking on me all the time. He kept saying that if I wanted to back out at the last minute, he wouldn't hold it against me. I reassured him every time that I wanted to do this. When we finally moved into Derek's place, the first thing I did was learn about Derek's medication. I took Derek to all his doctor's appointments and reviewed all his medical reports. I took my role as his caregiver very seriously. Once I was familiar with everything, I focused entirely on caring for Derek. Derek's behavior changed completely after I took over his medical care. He used to be very cheerful and carefree, but then he became quiet and reserved. I tried to get him to talk several times, but Derek never responded with more than a phrase. I asked Casey if he knew why Derek was acting that way, but Casey didn't seem to have any idea either. Besides, I didn't expect Casey to know, considering he was always busy and out of the house. When I asked him where he was going, he always gave various answers like work or drinks with friends. I was upset that Casey was showing so little care toward Derek, but I figured that being away from home was his way of dealing with his sorrow about his dad's health. Eventually, I gave up on asking Derek if everything was okay and instead focused on getting him better physically. Finally, about a month after Casey and I moved in, Derek spoke to me. I'm so sorry that you have to do this, Derek said. Why are you apologizing? I asked. I feel bad. This is not how you're supposed to spend the first few months of your marriage. You and your son are the same. He brought up this concern too, but just like I told him, I'll tell you this, I want to do this for you. Sure, but there are a million other things you could be doing. And none of those would be as important as you are. I want to see you get better. I don't think I ever will, Derek said. Why is that? You're much more stable now than you were before. This is how it always is. I get stabilized for a bit and then I crash again. Ask Casey, he's been with me every single one of those times. I was there for a few of those times, but now you're in my hands. I'm a trained nurse and have a little more knowledge than Casey when it comes to medicine. How dare you say that you have a lot more knowledge about medicine than him, Derek joked. But see, your sense of humor is coming back, so you're definitely getting better. Let's focus on feeling good and let the future worry about itself. I'm thankful for you. I wish there was more that I could do for you. That's enough. I only want you to do one thing for me, and that's to recover and be as healthy as you can. Got it? Yes, ma'am. So, where's Casey? I don't really know. He's been running some errands. That boy is always taking care of things behind the scenes. I feel like I've upset him too, with having you guys move in. I can assure you that you haven't. He's just very worried about you. I guess being out of the house makes him feel better because he doesn't have to see you suffer as much. Just let him know that I miss talking to him, and if he could, we could watch the game together this evening in the den. Just a boys' night if you don't mind. That's a great idea. I'll let him know. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to spend some quality time with his dad. Besides, I could use some downtime for myself too. Alright then, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a nap now. I feel pretty tired. Of course, I'll check on you every half hour, and if I'm not here, just press this buzzer, and I'll be right by your side. Sleep well. I'm not going to lie, I had an inkling that Derek had been feeling that way. I was glad he finally felt comfortable enough to confide in me. I tried my best to reassure him that he was no bother to me. After Derek went to sleep, all I had to do was wait for Casey. He had gone out again that day and hadn't told me where. I texted and called him a few times but couldn't get through. I was beginning to worry, but about an hour later, Casey texted me to say he was okay and would be home late. I got dinner ready for Derek and me, and for the first time since I moved in, we sat together and ate. We finally had conversations like we used to. I gave Derek his night medications and sent him to bed. I lay in bed for another 2 hours, waiting for Casey to get back. I was really tired from the day. I ended up falling asleep, but I woke up about an hour and a half later because I heard sounds coming from the living room. When I went downstairs, I saw Casey sitting there, taking off his shoes and tie. I approached him and asked where he had been all day. Hey, where were you? Just here and there. Okay, well, I was talking to your dad earlier, and I have to say both of you think the same way. What do you mean? Both of you worried about how I would react to moving in here right after marriage. It was actually kind of cute. Oh, I really do hope you don't secretly mind it. No, I don't, but he also asked me to ask you about something. Oh, what is it? He asked if you'd be free this weekend to watch the game with him in the den for a boys' night. Oh man, I wish I could, but I'm going to be busy this weekend. You are? What are you doing? I just have some things I need to do. Ever since we moved in, you've been busy with something you won't tell me about. Look, don't take it personally. I just need to sort through some things, okay? No, I will not take that as an answer. Do you know how upset your dad is? What's he got to be upset about? You haven't been spending any time with him. He thinks you're upset about the move and that you're avoiding him because of it. That's nonsense. Then what are you running around for? I'm just taking care of all the legal things like my inheritance in case things go south with Dad. Are you being serious right now? What? I don't want things hanging open and us struggling later on. Your father is alive and healthy right now, and all you can think about is your inheritance. This is exactly why I didn't want to tell you. Why? Because I was going to say that you seem insane. Look, Dad's health has always been fragile, and he's always denied wanting to get his affairs in order. I never had that opportunity to get it done because I was busy taking care of him. I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong. I'm just upset that you're only focusing on that instead of spending quality time with him while he's still here. If this is about the football game, then fine, I'll sit with him. Just don't make a big deal about this. Why are you being this way? He's your father. Why are you treating this like it's some kind of chore? I said I would do it. Just get off my back already. I couldn't understand why Casey was behaving that way. Why was he getting so agitated? I was only relaying the message that his father wanted me to relay. Besides, why would he act like spending a day with his ill father was such a huge task? Casey didn't give me a chance to ask him any more questions because he got up and stormed off into the guest bedroom. I went to bed feeling upset that night because I couldn't understand Casey's point of view at all. The next day, Casey approached me before he left for work and apologized for his behavior the previous night. He told me he had been tired from work and took out his frustration on me. Somehow, I couldn't fully believe that excuse. But at least Casey assured me that he didn't find spending time with his father to be a burdensome task. He told me to let Derek know that he would spend the weekend with him. Derek was overjoyed when he heard the news, so I planned out all the snacks and drinks they would need for the game viewing. When the weekend came, I left the house after making sure Casey and Derek were settled in the den. I made sure Casey knew what to do if Derek's blood sugar level got too high or too low. Then I headed to the library for some much-needed reading time. When I came back, both Casey and Derek had big smiles on their faces. They wouldn't stop talking about the game, and I was happy to see them back to their usual selves. That was the last time I saw Derek truly happy. A month after that, Derek's health began to deteriorate. His blood sugar levels were always through the roof, and he was getting weaker and weaker. One day, on a whim, I decided to take Derek to the hospital for a checkup. I gave the nurse a bottle of his medicine and asked her to check if it was correct, wanting to rule out any possible causes for Derek's declining health. Once Derek was settled in his ward, I called Casey to inform him of what had happened. Casey rushed over and was with me at the hospital within half an hour. "What's going on?" "Oh, thank God you came." "What's wrong with Dad?" "Nothing too serious, but his health was getting worse. I felt like something was off, so I brought him to the hospital." "Did you seriously admit him into the hospital based on a hunch?" "Well, yes. What's the problem with that?" "Do you know how much his bills cost?" "He's fully insured, Casey. There's nothing to worry about." "What is your problem with this?" "You're a nurse. You could have figured it out on your own. You didn't have to come to the hospital." "A hospital can do much more than what I could have done at home. Aren't you glad I was cautious? This is better than waiting until something bad happens." "Nothing bad would have happened. You just admitted him to the hospital because you thought something was wrong. You didn't have any evidence." "Didn't I say his numbers indicated his health was declining? I think that's evidence enough." You're going to ruin everything." "What are you?" I was interrupted by the nurse I had given Derek's medicine to. She pulled me aside and told me that the medicine was not medicine but sugar water. That was what was causing huge spikes in Derek's levels. I was shocked and couldn't understand how that was possible until I got a call from one of Casey's friends right at that moment. What they told me shocked me to my core. I started thinking about Casey's suspicious behavior. Derek's spike in blood sugar levels started a month before, right after the game viewing when I was out of the house. I quietly told the nurse to alert the police that Casey had been trying to poison his father. My heart was racing, but I knew that Casey had to be the culprit. I just needed to stall him. I set my phone to record and approached him. "What's going on? What took you so long? Why do you look so pale?" "The nurse just told me something." "What?" "I do not have the patience for your drama right now. Spit it out." "The medicine that I have been injecting Derek with was not the one prescribed to him." "Oh, how did the nurse find out about that?" "Because I gave her the bottle of the medicine when she told me that Derek's sugar levels were soaring beyond belief. I thought that was odd, so I gave her the bottle. It turns out it had been switched with something else entirely." "With what?" "It was just plain sugar water, which would explain the high blood sugar levels." "Casey, why did you do that?" "You think I did that? You did it. I'm not the one administering his medication to him. I would never do something like that. All of this only started happening after that day I spent away from home." "Did you switch the label of the medicine into another bottle?" "I did not." "Be honest with me. Why did you do it?" "Why do you think I did it?" "Because everything adds up. You telling me that I was ruining your plans, you constantly being out of the house, never spending time with him. I had a plan for us to go somewhere today, and I was that way with Dad even before the day we watched the game together. Then tell me why one of your friends called me because they were concerned when you told them that you had found a way to get your dad's inheritance earlier. Which one of those jerks ratted me out? What did your father do to you for you to want him dead?" "It wasn't anything personal, okay? I just wanted to live a lot more comfortably. Do you know how many estates this man is sitting on? I wouldn't have to work for the next 10 years if I sold them off. Did you not think that if your plan got found out, I would be the one to suffer? I planned it exactly that way. What is wrong with you? You know what? I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction of a bigger reaction. You deserve to rot." "Is that the cops? You called the cops on me?" "Well, what you did was attempted murder. I just stalled you long enough to ensure that you wouldn't run away. You rat, enjoy prison time." Casey was promptly arrested after that. I couldn't believe what was happening, but I knew I needed to stay strong for Derek. When Derek was in a more stable condition, I broke the news about Casey's crimes to him. Derek was shocked and heartbroken. He couldn't believe his own son wanted him dead. While focusing on making Derek feel better, I was also summoned to court several times to testify against Casey. Every time I went there, Casey just glared at me with such intensity that I felt really scared, but I knew that what I was doing was right for Derek. Eventually, after weeks of going over the case, Casey was convicted of elder abuse as a felony. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and fined $10,000, along with time at a correctional facility for his behavior. I was just happy that Casey was finally taught the right lesson and hoped he would change for the better. While I was happy, Derek was not. Unfortunately, Derek could not get over his grief of losing his son. He became sadder and sadder as each day passed, and the day that Casey was sentenced, Derek lost his will to live. For a moment, I felt bad that I was the one who blew the whistle on Casey's devious plans and in the process, hurt Derek. But Derek must have sensed that I was feeling that way because one day, while I was giving him his medicines, Derek told me not to feel terrible about exposing Casey. He said he was sad because he felt betrayed and like he had been a horrible father to Casey. I tried my best to comfort him, but Derek didn't want to listen. Instead, he asked me to get him his lawyers because he had some paperwork to change. I did everything he asked, and about 3 weeks after Casey's sentencing, Derek passed away from a cardiac arrest. I was devastated because in my heart, I felt like Casey still got what he wanted. He was the reason his father gave up on his will to live. That was until Derek's lawyers contacted me to tell me that Derek had given me the majority of his estates and properties. The rest he donated to an old age home for abandoned elders. My heart melted at the thought of Derek's thoughtfulness, but I also knew I had to uproot myself and move to a different place. I had a year to change things up and make sure Casey would find no way to get a hold of me. So now, in about a month's time, I'll be moving a long way away. I'm writing this as a way to get everything that happened off my chest and as a reminder that good will always prevail, no matter what. Thank you for listening. Hello, my name is Serena, and I'm 37 years old. A lot has happened in my life over the past few months, and I thought I would share my experience with you. I also want to give a word of caution. Always listen to your gut. Not all family members can be trusted, and it's better to be safe than sorry. My story begins when I met my husband, Danny. We both worked at the same company, albeit in different departments. We first crossed paths at a company celebration that brought all the departments together. Danny and I hit it off instantly, spending the entire event engrossed in conversation. We exchanged numbers at the end of the night, and soon after, we started dating. After 3 wonderful years together, we decided to get married. Our wedding day was the happiest day of my life. Danny and I had a great relationship. We rarely fought and had an unspoken understanding that kept us in sync. However, there was one issue in my otherwise perfect life. My mother-in-law, Willow. Willow was quite the character. While she could be pleasant, she also had moments of rudeness and would sometimes make snide remarks or even insult me outright. Thankfully, Danny always stood up for me, which I appreciated. The main problem with Willow was her forgetfulness. Whether it was due to an actual memory issue or something else, she constantly forgot things. Despite our suggestions to seek help, she refused, insisting she was fine. But I started noticing that her forgetfulness seemed selective, especially when it came to me. One incident involved my laptop. Willow borrowed it to browse Amazon and ended up ordering expensive items using my saved card information. When the order was placed, it was charged to my account. I was upset, but Danny managed to get her to pay me back. Another time, Danny and I were planning a short trip and needed someone to care for our cat. My friends were unavailable, and my parents were out of town, so I reluctantly asked Willow. She agreed to come by once a day to feed and water the cat. When we returned, our house was infested with ants and my cat's food bowl was overflowing and crawling with them. My poor cat was itchy all over from the ants. Furious, Danny and I went to Willow's house. "Welcome back. It's lovely to see you both," she said. "Really, what did you do?" I asked, unable to hide my anger. "I asked you to do one thing, Mom. Why didn't you take care of the cat?" "What are you talking about?" "I did. I filled the bowls with food and water." "Yeah, you overfilled them, and now the house is crawling with ants. The cat couldn't eat or drink because of them. Did you even go over every day like I asked?" "I went over the first day after you left and filled the bowls really well. I figured if I put a lot of food and water, the cat would be fine for a while." "Mom, that's not how it works, and you know it. Pardon me for not knowing how to take care of pets. You know I hate them." "So you only went over one day?" "Yeah, I forgot about the cat after that. If you knew you couldn't take care of the cat, why didn't you just tell me? I wouldn't have asked you." "Look, is the cat alive?" "Yes, that's all that matters." That was a very crappy thing for you to do. I need you to apologize to Serena. Sorry, Serena. I was really upset about how casually Willow treated the whole situation. Even after she apologized, she didn't seem remorseful. I walked away because I didn't trust myself not to explode at her. I was fuming, and seeing her act like it was no big deal made me want to scream. Danny followed me out and apologized on his mother's behalf, but I wouldn't let him. He had nothing to do with her actions. We got the ant infestation taken care of, and a vet visit later, my cat was fine. I'm sharing this story because in hindsight, I should have recognized the signs of Willow's callousness and carelessness. If I had stood up to her then, I could have avoided a lot of pain later on. About a year after the cat incident, I got pregnant with my son Eric. The pregnancy was tough, with all the worst symptoms. To make things worse, I went into labor early and Eric was born prematurely. I couldn't hold him for 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks were incredibly hard on Danny and me. When I finally held my son, I knew I could never let anything bad happen to him. Danny felt the same way, and we decided not to let anyone from our families or friends meet our baby immediately. We wanted some family bonding time and to protect Eric during his most vulnerable months. I took time off work to care for Eric. Danny and I decided it was best for me to stop working until I recovered and Eric was older. Thankfully, I didn't have to quit my job as I was given a year's maternity leave and the ability to work from home. 3 years passed quickly. Eric was growing well and adored by everyone in our lives. But those 3 years were always busy with work or taking care of Eric. Danny and I realized we hadn't spent any real time together, so we decided to go on a date one weekend. Danny mentioned it to Willow, and she insisted on babysitting for us. Despite a gut feeling not to let her, we agreed after a small discussion. Our date was great, but when we returned to Willow's place, her car was not in the driveway. Alarm bells rang in my head. Danny and I tried to remain calm, but there was no answer when we rang the doorbell. Panicking, we used a spare key to get in. Eric was lying in bed, crying. I picked him up, furious. Danny searched the house but couldn't find Willow. Willow returned 10 minutes later. I angrily confronted her. Where the hell were you? Oh, I got a call from a friend in town and went out for coffee. So you just left Eric here? Well, what did you expect me to do? Carry the kid with me? Yes, or don't go at all. It's irresponsible to leave a baby alone. First of all, that's stupid. It would have been annoying to deal with a crying baby while catching up with a friend. Secondly, the house was a mess and I didn't want my friend to see that. Are you serious right now? How can you treat this so casually? Look, I made sure Eric was asleep before I left. I didn't think I'd be out so long, but I lost track of time. You guys are new parents, so I get the freak out, but there's no reason to worry so much. Kids are tougher than you think. Just shut up. I never want you around Eric again. You can't do that. Danny, say something. You can't let her keep me from my grandson. I'm just disgusted with how casually you're talking about this. Serena's right, and I support her decision. I don't want you near our son anytime soon. For the next 3 years, I didn't let Willow come near our family. Just the thought of her made my blood boil. She tried to reach out many times, but I ignored her. Danny was on my side, even though I knew he didn't like not talking to his mom. I told him he was free to talk to and visit her. I just didn't want her near Eric or me. Danny spoke to her every other weekend, and that was the extent of our involvement with Willow. One day, Danny told me he had something to discuss with me. There's something I need to discuss with you. Danny began. Oh, what does she want? I replied, already feeling my anger simmering. She keeps apologizing for what she did to Eric 3 years ago. Why is she suddenly apologizing now? She said she wants to see her grandson again. Absolutely not. That's exactly what I told her. But then she went on about how she's getting old and doesn't want to spend the rest of her life estranged from her son and grandson. That's a fate she chose for herself. I know, but you can't possibly be considering letting her back into our lives. She just seems so apologetic. Yeah, probably because she has something more devious in mind. I doubt that. I know you're still upset about what happened, but she did put our son's life in danger. I'm sorry, but I don't want someone who showed no care for my son in his life. He deserves better than that. I completely agree. All I'm suggesting is that we slowly reintroduce her into his life. No, Danny, don't be so stubborn. I'm not suggesting we let her be with him unsupervised again. I'm saying we let her see him. She has been apologizing like crazy recently, and she really does seem remorseful. Fine, she can meet him, but only when I'm there. She can't touch him unless he wants her to, and she has to respect all the boundaries we set. If she makes a fuss, her visitation rights are revoked. That's fair. I'll tell her she can meet him next weekend. Even though I did want it, I allowed Willow back into our lives. She became a loving grandparent to Eric. She complained about the boundaries we set, but she never violated them. Slowly, she and Eric developed a good bond, and we began seeing her once a week for family dinners. She would spoil Eric with gifts and plan family trips so he could have a good time, always ensuring Danny and I were involved. She kept this up for the next 3 years, and I slowly believed she had changed. Then one day she came over with something important to ask. "I need to ask you guys something," she began. "What is it, Mom?" Danny asked. "I was thinking that Eric and I haven't really spent much time together recently. Thanks to Serena, I miss a lot of time with him. You were a danger to him. Of course, I wouldn't let you be around him. I left him unsupervised once, Serena. Yes, you left him alone at home to go out for coffee with your friend. How could I ever trust you to watch my son again?" "Okay, Mom, what is it that you wanted to ask us?" "I wanted to ask if I could take Eric to the zoo this weekend." "What? Why?" I asked, shocked. Eric keeps talking about how much he loves giraffes, and I thought I could take him to see some. "Mom, we just told you why we don't want you to have alone time with Eric." "I know, and I'm really sorry for what I did. I hate that I did that to him. I just want to prove to both of you that I've become better." "So you want to take him to the zoo? That's a 2-hour drive away." "I know it's a big ask, but I promise to bring Eric back." "You can go, but only if we come along," I said firmly. "No, I want some alone time to bond with him." "Absolutely not. How long will you keep punishing me for something I did 6 years ago? I've been good so far and have never hurt Eric. Please." "You know what, Mom? Why don't you give Serena and me some time to talk about it? We'll get back to you on that," Danny intervened. I didn't want Eric to go somewhere far alone with Willow, but Danny was sure she had changed. She had been a good grandmother for the past few years, so much so that she was Eric's favorite. We asked Eric if he wanted to go to the zoo with Willow, and he excitedly said yes. Against my better judgment, I told Willow she could take him. Eric was excited to go on the trip with his grandma, but I was anxious. I asked Willow when they'd be back, and she promised by 4:00 p.m. I spent the day in a worried mess. When 4:00 p.m. came, Eric wasn't home. I waited another hour, thinking maybe they were stuck in traffic. Another hour passed, and they still weren't home. Danny suggested they might have stopped for dinner, but when they still didn't return, I called Willow. "Willow, where are you?" "I'm at home." "All right, and where's Eric?" "You left with him this morning, and it's 6:00 p.m. now." "Oh, right. I think I forgot him at the zoo. I guess I also forgot to tell you." "What do you mean you forgot him at the zoo?" One minute he was holding my hand, and the next he wasn't. I didn't really pay attention because I was overheating. I left the zoo when it got too hot for me and realized halfway home that Eric wasn't in the car. "What the actual hell is wrong with you? How could you not immediately call me or the cops?" I screamed into the phone. "Relax, it's not that big of a deal. The zoo is open until 8:00 p.m. If you leave right now, you'll get there in time to bring him back," Willow responded, sounding disturbingly nonchalant. "How are you being so calm about this? He's just a child. He's old enough to know where to go if he's lost. He'll be fine, just go collect him." "I'm going to make sure you regret doing this." I hung up the phone, my hands trembling with fear and anger. Danny and I drove as fast as we could to the zoo. He kept apologizing for convincing me to let Willow take Eric, but I knew I should have been smarter about the decision. It was only natural to trust someone who was supposed to be family. On the way to the zoo, I managed to get in contact with the management. They informed me that Eric was okay sitting in the security room. I told them we were on our way, and they assured me he was safe and would be there when we arrived. When we got to the zoo, it had closed, but the security was waiting for us. They led us to Eric, who began crying as soon as he saw us. He clung to us for a good 5 minutes, refusing to let go. The security guards informed us that he had cried for hours until he finally went silent. Danny and I tried to ask him questions, but he wouldn't talk. He was still scared and wouldn't stop crying. On the drive back home, I sat in the back with him. My heart ached for him, and I knew I needed to put Willow in her place. I told Danny that I wanted to get the cops involved, and he agreed. We called the police and reported everything Willow had done. They said they'd bring her in and needed Danny and me to make statements. An hour later, Willow called me. Why are there cops at my door? She demanded. I told you it'd make you regret it, I replied coldly. It wasn't a big deal. You got the police involved in this? You put my child's life in danger. Why wouldn't I get the law involved? You got him back, didn't you? I was only trying to get back at you for keeping him away from me for so long. It's not that deep. So you decided to traumatize my child for some petty revenge. The kid will get over it. You need to stop coddling him. This is why men in this generation are so sensitive. You need to teach your kid to be a man. My child is a child. His gender doesn't matter. He's expressing how scared he was when you abandoned him in a crowded place hours away from home. Get the cops away from here now. They won't stop banging on my door. What would you have done if Eric got injured or kidnapped? Would you be this nonchalant? He's fine. Stop talking about hypotheticals. You deserve jail time. I will press charges, and there's nothing you can do about it. Goodbye, Willow. After that, Danny, Eric, and I were called to the police station to give our statements. Danny and I both recounted instances of Willow being careless and endangering Eric. Then the cops asked Eric to tell them what happened. He was afraid, but I managed to calm him down. One of the officers offered him a donut, which helped him relax a bit. He didn't talk for a while, still processing everything. The police let us take our time. Danny and I engaged Eric's attention, trying to make him feel safe. Finally, Eric opened up and told us and the police that Willow had left him at the zoo in front of the lion enclosure. She had told him she had a surprise and made him cover his eyes and count to 10. When he opened his eyes, she was gone, and she never came back for him. Thankfully, he found security who kept him safe until we arrived. I was furious and asked the police to be serious about dealing with Willow. They assured me they would. Over the next few months, Danny and I attended several court trials against Willow. She was charged with child desertion and endangerment and was eventually sentenced to 10 years in jail. Willow looked devastated, but I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. I no longer had to worry about my son being put in dangerous situations by her. Eric has been getting better. One of the first things Danny and I did after the incident was put him in therapy. It has been helping him a lot. Danny and I are slowly getting through this as well. I know it's been harder for Danny, considering his own mother put his son's life in danger. It's slow progress, but we're learning to live normally again. Thank you for listening. Hi there, my name's Felicity, and I'm 37 years old. Let me tell you about an experience I had and how I quickly dealt with it because I don't let people take advantage of me. Unlike many stories I've read here, I actually had a good relationship with my mother-in-law before everything fell apart. Yes, it's surprising, I know. We got along great, and our relationship was smooth and filled with warmth, perfection, and mutual respect. As for my husband Frank, he was the love of my life, my best friend, and my partner in everything. To me, everything seemed perfect. I'm not being naive or ignoring any red flags. Sure, we had our arguments like any normal family, but in the end, everything was fine, and there was no sign of any problems. So, you can imagine how shocked I was when this crazy story happened. Maybe someone can help me figure out what went wrong because to this day, I still don't know. Let me tell you what happened and why I decided to take revenge on my husband and mother-in-law for what they did to me. I had planned something special for our family. It was supposed to be a vacation for just my husband and me, but I thought about Tiana, my mother-in-law, who had been widowed for 4 years and must have felt lonely. So I decided to include her in the vacation plans. I mainly pay for everything, accommodation, meals, and activities, while my husband and Tiana covered whatever else they wanted. But essentially, I was paying for everything. I wanted to treat Tiana and Frank to a once-in-a-lifetime vacation in Spain. The thought of strolling through the vibrant streets of Barcelona, enjoying delicious tapas, and basking in the Mediterranean sun filled me with joy. I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to create lasting memories and deepen our bond. When I presented the idea to them, they loved it too. I meticulously planned every detail of the trip, from the charming boutique hotel overlooking the stunning coastline to the exciting flamenco dance performance we would attend together. The excitement was palpable, and I couldn't wait to surprise Tiana and Frank with this grand adventure. Little did I know that the events awaiting me would shake my trust and shatter the illusion of our perfect little bubble. I was about to embark on a journey that would forever change my perception of family loyalty and the depths of human deception. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Allow me to take you back to that fateful day when our dreams of Spain were so full of hope and promise. I stood in the living room, holding the plane tickets tightly in my hands, a big smile on my face. Frank, Tiana, gather round. I have a surprise for both of you. They exchanged puzzled glances, curiosity written on their faces. Tiana, with her wise eyes, tilted her head slightly. What's all this excitement about, my dear? With a flourish, I revealed the tickets and shared my plans for the Spanish adventure awaiting us. I watched their expressions closely, hoping to see joy and gratitude in their eyes. Frank's face lit up, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. Felicity, you truly are something else. I can't wait for this incredible trip. Tiana wore a softer smile, her gaze meeting mine. Oh, my sweet Felicity, you've truly outdone yourself. This is a gift beyond measure. I'm deeply touched. At that moment, my heart swelled with pride and contentment. Their reactions validated the love and effort I had poured into this surprise. I thought this vacation would be the glue that bound us even tighter, creating unforgettable memories and strengthening the bonds that already seemed unbreakable. But as you might have suspected, this story takes a dark turn. Beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect relationship, a web of deceit and betrayal was waiting to catch us. When the truth came out, it tested the limits of forgiveness and family bonds. We boarded the plane for our 2-week adventure with high hopes. The first week was magical. We enjoyed paella, explored historic landmarks, and danced to flamenco music. Laughter and joy filled the air, and I believed our bond was unbreakable. However, a storm was brewing. On a sunny Monday morning, I woke up to an empty hotel room. Confusion and unease gripped my heart. I frantically called my husband and Tiana, but their phones were silent. There were no notes, bags, or signs of struggle, just an unsettling silence. It felt like I had booked this trip for myself alone. Minutes felt like hours as questions flooded my mind. Had they gotten lost? Had something happened to them? But the lack of evidence suggested otherwise. A chill ran down my spine as I reluctantly accepted the truth. I was left alone in a foreign land. Just as despair threatened to consume me, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Tiana. Relief washed over me, mixed with confusion and hurt. How could she leave without a word? With trepidation, I answered the call. Tiana, where are you? What happened? Her voice, tinged with resignation and frustration, didn't sound like the sweet lady I knew. It was colder. Felicity, I thought I should at least call since you kept blowing up my phone. Sorry for disturbing you. I was just wondering where you two went. Your bags aren't here. I was concerned something bad happened. Her next words, said with chilling indifference, shook me to the core. We left you. But why? What happened? I'm sorry, but I couldn't bear to spend another week in your company, so I had to leave. What are you talking about? Did I do something wrong? Yes, I mean, how could you be so dense? Dense? Excuse me. You sprung this trip on me, practically forcing me to go with you. I just couldn't remain disingenuous any longer. Let me be clear, Felicity. I'd enjoy your company. Sure, we can spend a couple of hours together at family events, but 2 weeks. I tried to be civil and endure it, but I could only manage 1 week before I lost my mind. I'm sorry, but Frank and I are heading to the airport. We can't be around you any longer. Shock reverberated through me. The revelation struck like lightning, unraveling the trust I had so naively built. How could our bond crumble under unspoken grievances? Questions overwhelmed me. What had I done wrong? What did I do to deserve such harshness? Was there no chance for reconciliation? With confusion and heart-ache, I asked, I didn't know you felt this way, Tiana. And you had no reason to. I always made it seem like things were fine between us. Then why not tell me? Why not sit down and discuss any problems? I can't put my finger on it. You just irk me. That's childish. You can't stand me just because I irk you. Grow up, Tiana. I thought I offended you, but I didn't do anything wrong, did I? Not necessarily, but it doesn't matter. What matters is how I feel about you, and I find you annoying. Then why agree to come on this trip? It was a free trip to Spain. No one would turn that down. But as the days went by, I grew tired of your antics. What antics, Tiana? What did I do that was so bad you had to leave me alone in a foreign country? She had no answers, and my impatience grew. I was shocked, hurt, confused, and angry. But most of all, I was sad. I needed to know what my husband, Frank, had to say about all this. Let me speak to Frank. Casually, Tiana passed the phone to Frank, who had likely been listening the whole time. He sounded just as indifferent and cold as his mother. Hello, really, Frank? You decided to leave me too. I didn't leave you because I don't like you. I left because my mom needed me to take her home. So you knew about all of this? Well, yes. How long have you known about your mother's apparent hatred toward me? For some time now. I was hoping this trip would bring her closer to you, but I was wrong. Okay, but what I'm failing to understand is why none of you approached me about this. We're all adults, aren't we? If there's an issue, we solve it. It's not like we haven't had arguments in the past. We sat down and solved them. What's different this time? Frank, like his mother moments ago, failed to answer. The only thing I can conclude is that your mother hates me for a silly reason she knows isn't valid. Maybe she's jealous or something. Maybe I have something she can't have, and she knows she can't speak up about it without sounding foolish, so she's beating around the bush. Am I right? Their resounding silence confirmed my suspicion. I'm honestly shocked. I didn't know you two felt this way about me. I hope you have a safe flight home. I cut the call, pacing around the hotel room, still trying to wrap my head around what exactly the issue was. I stopped wondering what I did to deserve this treatment. 47 years on this planet had taught me that sometimes people hate you for seemingly no good reason. They're jealous or bitter because they see you at peace with yourself, and that enrages them because they struggle with their self-worth. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's experienced this, but the last people I expected this behavior from were my own family. After sobbing for some time, I had an epiphany. Let me take you back to that fateful moment when I decided to take control of my destiny and seek revenge against these two who had wronged me for no good reason. It was a pivotal moment that would forever change the course of my life. As I wiped away my tears, a newfound determination welled up within me. I refused to waste any more emotions on their pathetic actions. No, it was time to show them they couldn't trample over my heart and get away with it. With trembling fingers, I dialed the number of my childhood friend, Arlo. We had been through thick and thin together, and I knew I could trust him with my darkest secrets. After pouring out my heart to him and explaining the painful betrayal I had experienced in Spain, I cautiously asked if he could assist me in my quest for justice. Arlo, always the loyal and mischievous friend, listened intently, his voice filled with a mix of concern and excitement, reassuring me that he had my back. Felicity, my dear friend, you're a force to be reckoned with, and you know you can count on me for anything. So, what are you planning to do? Well, Arlo, you know how your construction company always has excess sawdust. Yes, it can be quite a hassle to get rid of sometimes. Well, I think I finally have the perfect use for it. His curiosity was piqued, and my plan tumbled out like a carefully crafted script, describing how we would orchestrate the ultimate act of retaliation. My plan involved delivering bags of sawdust to Tiana's house, infiltrating every corner and crevice, and leaving an indelible mark of chaos and betrayal. Arlo couldn't help but smile at the brilliance of my idea. It was a subtle yet impactful way to remind Tiana of the stress she had unleashed upon my life. Armed with Arlo's expertise and my newfound determination, we set our plan into motion. But how will we get inside the house before they arrive back home? You need to get the spare key hidden under the potted plant on the patio. Then you'll be in. Wow, you thought of everything, huh? I'm not one to be played with. I think I'm reasonable, but if they want to act childish, I'll go even lower. Atta girl. As the hours ticked by, anticipation swirled within me. Arlo assured me the mission was complete, and soon I would witness the fallout of our carefully orchestrated chaos. Then, like a sweet melody in my ear, my phone chimed with a message from Arlo. I eagerly opened the pictures he had sent, and there it was, a sight to behold. Tiana's once pristine home now resembled a post-apocalyptic wasteland, drowned in a sea of sawdust. Every nook and cranny had been touched by our mischievous hands. It was a scene straight out of a surrealistic painting, an embodiment of the chaos that had unfolded in our lives. I called Arlo, and his laughter echoed through the phone. I couldn't help but join in. It was a cathartic release, a shared moment of triumph against those who had betrayed me. I expressed my heartfelt gratitude to Arlo, acknowledging his willingness to tread the path of mischief with me. He simply said, "Naughty can be so satisfying." As the clock ticked away, I could feel the tension building within me. How would Frank and Tiana react when they walked through the doors of their once beloved home? The anticipation was almost unbearable, a heady mix of nerves and vindication. I couldn't help but relish the thought of their bewildered faces and disarrayed emotions. Hours later, my phone erupted with frantic energy. It was Frank, his voice laced with panic and disbelief. He described the scene that awaited them, the sawdust-covered house that stood as a testament to their betrayal. My heart danced with wicked delight as I listened to his exasperated voice. At that moment, I knew the message had been received loud and clear. Their actions had consequences, and the chaos they had sown had come back to haunt them. Frank's panicked words were like sweet music to my ears, a validation of the power I had reclaimed. Felicity, it's just awful. Mom is in hysterics. I decided to reveal the part I had played in this. It serves both of you right. How could you leave me here alone without a valid reason? Wait, Felicity, was this your doing? The wailing and panic I heard in the background stopped. Suddenly, I heard my mother-in-law say, "Give me that," before shouting in my ear, "Did you do this? How could you do this to us?" I have no idea what you're talking about. Have you considered that this is just your karma? Oh, come on, Felicity, we all knew it was you. Who else would have access to my home? It's very easy to break into someone's home nowadays, Tiana, especially if you don't have any security cameras installed. Which, by the way, you should seriously consider doing to prevent things like this from happening again. Honestly, Felicity, how can you do this to us? Where are we supposed to sleep? This sawdust is making my lungs ache. Oh, that's right. You probably forgot to get the keys to my house, huh? Well, that's a shame. I'm guessing you two are going to have to stay in yet another hotel. But for how long? Until I decide to come back from my vacation, I guess. I mean, I pay for 2 weeks, and who knows, I might feel greedy and decide to extend my stay. Frank then took the phone from Tiana as she began to bawl once again, mourning her ruined furniture. Felicity, this was foul. How could you do this? I don't know why you're assuming I had anything to do with this. How could I? I'm currently relaxing in the hotel jacuzzi. I held back my laughter as the two of them were clearly confused about what had happened. Even though they suspected I had something to do with it, which I obviously did, they didn't have any solid proof. So I basked in the glory of knowing they were frustrated with nowhere to direct their anger. As I bid Frank farewell on the phone, a sense of contentment washed over me. I had taken control of my narrative, leaving them to grapple with the consequences of their actions. I know what I did was quite foul and even dangerous, considering how old Tiana is. Spending even one night in that house could lead to serious health consequences. But I knew they wouldn't dare dream of staying there. It was too savage to be habitable. They just had to rely on staying in a hotel a little longer. Because I didn't want my money to go to waste, I stayed that extra week in Spain, enjoying the culture as I intended. Meanwhile, my husband and mother-in-law were undoubtedly worried, trying to find a cleaning company to take on such a daunting task. I didn't know how long it would take to get the house professionally cleaned, but I knew that in the meantime, my mother-in-law would have to stay with us in my home, and I knew she would just be irritated the whole time since she apparently couldn't stand my company. This should serve as a reminder to all of you. Some people need to learn the hard way. If you can dish out your own justice, then by all means go ahead and do it. Really give people something to be mad about.